Chapter 441. There's a magical power on her, a magical power that attracts people. Half of Qiao Jin's body was already hanging on Yi Fengyu's shoulder. This is a unique charm that belongs to her and no one is able to escape from her magical power. In Yi Fengyu's chest, there seemed to be something boiling hot, as it started to boil. Yes, his sister had the ability to infect the surrounding people. She had the magical power to turn something rotten into something magical. These people's admiration towards his sister was no less than his. Yi Fengyu's lips curled upwards, that originally restless heart slowly settled down. That afternoon, before it was even 5 in the morning, Devil Classes 60 over students had all arrived at the mansion. Even though it was a holiday, Yi Qing Luo didn't let them slack off on their training. All the students then started training in the mansion's courtyard. When Yi Fengyu saw these students training in an orderly manner, he was completely stunned. These students obviously had not just started training recently. Their movements were standard and their coordination was extremely good. After a set of training, even he who had been praised by Master Guiyu for his physique was already unable to take it. But these students, who were labeled as waste, didn't have any change in expression, as they continued with the next set of training. Damn it! What kind of waste were these? Was the academy really not blind? They were definitely blind, otherwise they wouldn't have allocated his sister to devil class. Yi Fengyu recalled that before he came, he was still doubting devil class's ability, as his face was filled with shame. He clenched his teeth, not willing to admit defeat, as he immediately followed up with these students' training. After the training ended, the students lined up properly. They saw Yan Xiaoyi pushing a wooden cart as she walked over. On the wooden cart, there were sets of brand new clothes. Since we're a team, and also a team to develop into a mercenary group, then we must have a uniform. Yan Xiaoyi picked up a set of clothes. As she waved it, each person has 2 sets, vice class monitor. She paused for a moment, as she burst out laughing. No, now we should call vice group leader. When vice group leader calls your name, come over to collect your clothes. Qiao Jin rolled his eyes. Go ahead and tease me, great manager Yan. He intentionally spat out the last 4 words, word by word. Yan Xiaoyi directly threw the clothes in her hands towards Qiao Jin's face. Amidst the laughter, the students had already collected 2 sets of clothes and returned to their rooms. About an hour later, these people put on the clothes and returned to the courtyard to line up. Qiao Jin and the others also changed into this set of clothes. When he walked out, he saw that the entire courtyard was filled with youths dressed in the same clothes, and their faces were filled with smiles of joy and excitement. His heart was filled with a sense of satisfaction. These clothes were made according to each student's measurements, and each student's name was embroidered on the collar with golden thread. Ever since Yi Qing Luo said that she wanted to establish a mercenary group, Yan Xiaoyi, Qiao Jin and the others had already discussed to prepare a set of mercenary group uniform for this batch of youngsters. After the discussion, they hired 100 tailors and embroidery workers at a high price and rushed to make more than 100 sets of clothes. This was their uniform. It was the uniform of their mercenary group. The youths touched the clothes on their bodies very carefully, afraid that they would damage their new clothes. Has everyone changed their clothes? Do they all fit? A clear voice came from the main hall. His voice wasn't loud, but it suppressed the clamor in the courtyard. Chapter 442. In the main hall, 2 figures walked out. The exact same mercenary group's attire, but with 2 totally different styles. The woman's long hair was tied up into a bun, using a black hair tie to secure it at the back of her head, revealing that devastatingly beautiful face. Between her brows, there was a peerless enchanting look. That black attire clung tightly to her nice figure. Her entire person was breathtaking, revealing a kind of enchanting and languid charm that could charm all living beings. As for the man, his handsome face was cold, without any emotions, with a pair of azure blue eyes, staring coldly in front. This black warrior robe added a little wildness to his aura that people didn't want to get close to. The black attire, embroidered on the sleeve, was a blossoming cherry blossom totem, which was extremely eye-catching. The fabric of the attire was soft and close-fitting, and extremely resistant to wear. Yan Xiaoyi specially spent a huge sum of money to invite 10 over-armament masters to enchant every single piece of clothing with some elements. Every piece of clothing had the ability to prevent knives from cutting, slashing, and all ordinary sharp weapons. It was equivalent to a golden silk soft armor, impenetrable by swords and spears. And there was a special function. A good-looking person is indeed different. Qiao Jin clicked his tongue, propping his chin as he shook his head. Look at our Qing Luo, dressed like a fairy descending to earth, breathtaking, and look at our student Xiao Yi. When he said to this point, he paused, shaking his head helplessly. Sigh. Damn. What do you mean? Yan Xiaoyi's eyes twitched, as she threw a slap towards Qiao Jin's face. Although I'm not as good as Qing Luo, but at least I'm beautiful. You blind one, get lost. Alright, stop quarreling. Long Yunzhan opened his mouth coldly. The two of them instantly shut their mouths, but when their four eyes met, it was still burning with intense sparks. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes swept past these youngsters in front of her. They were dressed in their own unique uniform, their expressions solemn, as their gazes kept staring at her. This feeling was very warm. So warm that her heart was about to melt from their smiles. If there's any part that doesn't fit, tell Xiao Yi, so that we can amend it in time. Yi Qing Luo's voice became much gentler. Fits. Very fitting. How could it not fit? The youngsters' hearts were filled with gratitude. What they didn't know was when Yan Xiaoyi had already memorized everyone's clothing measurements without a single mistake. Tonight, you must rest well. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a smile. Tomorrow, we will be heading to the Mercenary Association to register our mercenary group. Moreover, we will be taking on our first mission. She paused for a moment and narrowed her charming eyes, emitting a majestic aura. I have very high expectations for all of you. The first mission will definitely not be easy. Furthermore, I demand that all of you complete the first mission at all costs. The youngsters' expressions suddenly changed, as they were shocked by Yi Qing Luo's words. The youngsters' expressions suddenly changed, as they were, of Yi. The lowest level was the low-level mission, followed by the mid-level mission, high-level mission, complex mission, and the most difficult to complete, which was the one that even the gold medal mercenary groups couldn't complete, were the god-level missions. Based on Yi Qing Luo's character, her first mission would definitely be a high-level mission. Looking at the youngsters whose faces had turned pale from fright, Yi Qing Luo's smile didn't diminish. Let's disperse and return to your rooms to rest. Don't be so nervous that you can't sleep. If you affect everyone's progress tomorrow, you will be a sinner for all eternity. Clap, clap, clap in the silent inner courtyard. The crisp sound of applause was extremely loud. Who is it? Chapter 443. A man with jet black hair, dressed in a purple robe, floated in mid-air as he walked over. Like a deity descending, he slowly landed at the entrance of the inner courtyard. That peerless face, the corners of his eyes were long and narrow, and his thin lips were curled into an extremely shallow arc. It was full of demonic charm. Such a strong aura. Such a strong power. The youngsters' eyes widened as they stared dazedly at this godlike man in front of them. Overlord. The legend in their hearts, the target that they yearned for. The Overlord who has always been elusive, has actually allowed us to meet him. I'm not dreaming, am I? This is really the Overlord. What the? I heard that student Yi and the overlord have a close relationship. This is true. The youngsters stared at Dmo Xian in shock. All of them couldn't wait to rush up and touch him to see if he was really the overlord. Dmo Xian's appearance instantly attracted all the youngsters' gazes. Yiqing Luo was also astonished. Why was he here? The man's narrow long devilish charm, glistening peach blossom eyes, gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo, as though he wanted to melt her in his gaze. Yiqing Luo's cheeks suddenly turned red and boiling hot. Her breathing quickened as he got closer to her. The surrounding youngsters were all shocked. This gaze. This gaze. This atmosphere. If these two people didn't have anything going on, who would believe it? The surrounding students' envious and teasing gazes looked towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's cheeks turned boiling hot, as her heartbeat sped up. Like a young lady in love, her heart was moved. She thought that Dmo Xian would only appear when the both of them were alone. She had even made preparations to return to her room to rest, waiting for Dmo Xian's arrival. She had not expected him to appear openly in the inner courtyard, in front of these students. "You're indeed my Lil Luo, well said." The man's mellow wine-like voice rang lightly in the inner courtyard sky. As he said that, he had already walked in front of Yiqing Luo. Stretching out his hand, his well-defined fingers caressed Yiqing Luo's face. His jade-like fingers gently caressed the strands of hair by the side of her face, circling to the back of her head, his fingertips gentle. "You've worked hard." That gentle touch was like a feather, brushing over his skin. Yiqing Luo's curly long eyelashes fluttered as her charming eyes were tainted with a layer of haziness. She raised her eyes and was met with a pair of eyes that were as gentle as water and filled with love. His clear and melodious voice still rang in her ears. It was so gentle that it seemed as if water could be squeezed out of it. Her heart was suddenly struck by something and softened. She took the initiative to snuggle into Dmo Xian's arms, her arms circling around his waist, her nostrils filled with the familiar sandalwood scent. She smiled like a flower and said in a sweet voice, "Ah Xian." Dmo Xian's index finger caressed Yiqing Luo's silky hair as his eyes overflowed with gentleness. "It can't be. Our classmate Yi really has this kind of relationship with the overlord. Why not? It was already so obvious. Damn it. Oh, my eyes. I'm going to be blinded by the light. It's simply showing off to dogs. This scene is too beautiful." It was indeed beautiful. The man was domineering and awe-inspiring, and his purple robe fluttered in the wind. The woman was enchanting and alluring, dressed in a black tight suit. Her good figure was in harmony with the man's arms. Both of them had looks that could topple an entire nation, with an unparalleled imposing manner. The combination was indeed an extremely beautiful picture. Chapter 444. This feeling, where did it come from? He wasn't sure. Only, seeing Dmo Xian hugging Yiqing Luo, with a slightly provocative gaze, as he glanced at him. Long Yunzhan instantly felt that, even his breathing became heavier. He frowned, and like the other youngsters, he stared at the scene of the two hugging. The man was handsome and the lady was pretty, extremely compatible. From Yiqing Luo's gaze, he could tell that she had true feelings for Dmo Xian. Wasn't this very good? But what was this strange feeling in his heart? What was going on? "Everyone quickly return to your rooms to rest. Tomorrow morning we will be heading to the Mercenary Association." Qiao Jin was the first to react, as he hurriedly called the youngsters back to their rooms to sleep. It was rare to see the overlord in person. How would these youngsters be willing to leave? All of them stared at Dmo Xian reluctantly, and under Qiao Jin's repeated urging, they only took a few steps back. "Haven't you seen that your Madame Qing Luo has met her lover, and has long thrown you all to the back of her mind?" Yan Xiaoyi's brows rose as she laughed in ridicule. As long as Qing Luo is around, isn't meeting the overlord anytime and anywhere. Today is a rare chance, let this loving couple spend some time alone. Saying that, the surrounding youngsters then reluctantly accepted, leaving the space for the two of them. After Qiao Jin and the rest dispersed the youngsters, they were also preparing to leave. After walking a few steps, they realized that Long Yunzhan was still standing at the original spot. His azure blue eyes were as still as water, staring at the two hugging each other, with an expressionless face. He sighed, as he went up and tugged Long Yunzhan's arm. "My group leader, let's go, let's go." Long Yunzhan's body stiffened, as he followed Qiao Jin's tugging, and left the inner courtyard. Not long later, the entire inner courtyard was only left with Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. "Ah, Xian, why are you here now?" Yiqing Luo raised her charming eyes, as the hand which was hugging his waist tightened. He was the overlord. His identity was mysterious and respectable. Appearing in front of this bunch of youngsters was to announce to them that he was in Three Springs City, and their relationship was completely exposed. "It's not like I can't be seen, why can't I be here?" Dmo Xian's brows rose, as his fingertips inserted into Yiqing Luo's hair, as he lifted a lock of hair. Her tone was cheerful and relaxed. It was as if she didn't feel that his actions were inappropriate. "But, your identity is not very dangerous, the legend of the Nirvana realm, the number one for a long time. This kind of identity and gimmick, no matter where he went, he would become the target of certain people. In particular, he was backed by the number one force, the Imperial Palace. If the news that Dmo Xian was in Three Springs City was leaked out, he was afraid that his future days would not be peaceful. "It's all right, these are your brothers, aren't they?" Dmo Xian stretched out his finger and stopped Yiqing Luo from finishing her sentence. He gazed at the lovely girl in his arms. The woman had a bashful expression on her face. Her eyes were like silk, and there was a seductive charm between her brows. It stirred up his heart, and a faint heat flowed through it. Yiqing Luo's expression was startled. That was right, these were all students of the devil class, her team, her brothers. Dmo Xian appeared at the old mansion because he believed in her foresight and believed in the brothers she believed in. Actually, because of Dmo Xian. She didn't even think about this aspect. It was said that after falling in love, one's IQ would drop in a straight line. Yiqing Luo now totally acknowledged this sentence. "Amen, that's right, these are my brothers, they will absolutely not tell anyone about your matter." Yiqing Luo smiled. Suddenly recalling the expressionless Long Yunzhan who was pulled away by Qiao Jin earlier, she immediately explained, "Earlier that person is my class monitor, his name is Long Yunzhan. Don't just look at his expressionless face, actually he..." "Oh." Chapter 445. Yiqing Luo's pupils widened as she let out a moan. His gaze met with a pair of pitch-black, deep eyes. A whirlpool, as though it was going to suck her in. So deep. So thick. She wanted to struggle, but Dmo Xian clasped the back of her head tightly as he deepened the kiss. Impenetrable, as though he wanted to plunder Yiqing Luo completely, swallowing her into his stomach. The thick masculine scent enveloped Yiqing Luo completely. As though it was a love net, firmly trapping her for life. This kiss made Yiqing Luo unable to struggle anymore. The next day, Yiqing Luo opened her eyes on time and was just about to get up when an arm was around her waist, pressing her down till she couldn't move. She glanced sideways, looking at Dmo Xian's peerless looks. No matter which angle she looked at him, he was that handsome. Especially when he was asleep, the lines on his face were even softer, adding some warmth. His hand encircled her waist. His leg pressed against hers. Yiqing Luo's entire body was encircled in Dmo Xian's arms. His scorching embrace, familiar breath, made Yiqing Luo feel dizzy for a moment. Every time she woke up, Dmo Xian's figure was no longer beside her. This was the first time, the moment she opened her eyes, she could see him. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she stretched out her finger, circling around the contours of his face, drawing one by one. This hand, just touched. Her wrist was grasped by a big hand. Dmo Xian opened that pair of demonic peach blossom eyes. Perhaps it was because he had just woken up, his eyes were covered with a layer of haziness. It made him look even more languid and alluring. You. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed, as though she was caught red-handed doing something bad, and immediately retracted her hand. But her wrist, which was grasped, couldn't struggle free no matter what. That pair of legs, which was pressing against her, slid forward. His whole body was on top of her. Yiqing Luo was stunned, as her cheeks flushed even redder. Stop fooling around, I still want. A kiss blanketed the sky and covered the earth, totally not giving Yiqing Luo any chance to struggle. Damn it. She woke up to a bed slam. Another hour passed as the commotion went on. Until Yan Xiaoyi knocked on the door outside. Qing Luo, yesterday you were the one who said you wanted to wake up early, but you're the last one. Even if the overlord is around, you need to be more reserved. Yiqing Luo couldn't voice out her bitterness. What did he mean by asking her to be more reserved? They should have asked Dmo Xian, that beast, to be more reserved. Yiqing Luo bashfully raised her fist and hammered hard on Dmo Xian's chest. Flipping over from the bed, Yiqing Luo used the fastest speed to finish washing up. Turning his head, he saw that the reserved animal had already put on the same set of black clothes. This was Qiao Jin's, and he had specially given it to Dmo Xian to wear last night. This set of clothes was specially designed to be tight-fitting, making it easier to move around. When Dmo Xian wore it, he was simply a model of abstinence. The clothes were obviously a little small, as it wrapped around Dmo Xian's well-built body, and those chunks of taut muscles could be seen vaguely. Yiqing Luo's face immediately turned red. You're prepared to go with us? Dmo Xian raised his brows. It's a rare holiday. I naturally have to accompany by your side. Wherever you go, I'll go. You're so ostentatious, can we still happily carry out the actual combat training? Although Dmo Xian was accompanying them, she was very happy in her heart. But after all, he was the overlord. If he were to interfere, then this round's training would completely change its flavor. She saw Dmo Xian slowly taking out a jade bottle from the profound dragon ring. Chapter 446. Not long after, when Dmo Xian turned around, what entered Yiqing Luo's eyes was an ordinary-looking face. It was so ordinary that one would forget it the very next second. The art of disguise could almost be mistaken for the real person. Even though she had seen Dmo Xian's disguise with her own eyes, Yiqing Luo was still unable to differentiate whether this face was real or fake. However, no matter how ordinary Dmo Xian's face was. However, his figure was tall and straight, and the majestic aura that he released could not be concealed no matter what. Especially that pair of peach blossom eyes, which were filled with charm. His otherworldly aura was enough to attract the gazes of countless people onto him. This isn't good. Yiqing Luo stared at Dmo Xian's face as she stretched out her hand and poked it. It felt exactly the same as a real face. What's wrong with that? Dmo Xian's brows rose as he held Yiqing Luo's little hand. In this way, you don't need to worry about being recognized. Yiqing Luo nestled in his arms. It was still the same person. His body temperature was still the same as before. The taste was still the same. But, this face, Yiqing Luo had a feeling that he was out of acting. What to do? Don't tell me. Lil Luo despises me for being ugly. Dmo Xian narrowed his eyes as he placed her hand on his face. Yiqing Luo shook her head. I'm just not used to it. Dmo Xian clasped her lower jaw and lowered his head to kiss her lips. Then I'll let you get used to this face up close, after all. For the 3 days of the holiday, you'll be facing this face. Yiqing Luo's resistance was forcefully swallowed by Dmo Xian. She whimpered and struggled, howling in her heart, damn it. How could there be such a habit? Finally, under Yan Xiaoyi's urging, the two of them walked out one after another. Yan Xiaoyi was just about to open her mouth to tease, but discovered that, the person behind Yiqing Luo. She didn't know him. A strange man. His figure was not bad, and his temperament was also not bad. However, that face was too ordinary. He was ugly, even uglier than Qiao Jin. Holy shit. She must have discovered something incredible. Yan Xiaoyi's suspicious eyes darted back and forth between the two. Under Yiqing Luo's puzzled gaze, she went up and nudged Yiqing Luo's arm as she whispered, "Not bad, Qing Luo. Last night you and the Overlord were so affectionate, and after just one night, the one who came out of your room was a different man. If the Overlord were to find out about this, wouldn't he skin you alive? How dare he?" Yiqing Luo snorted lightly as she glanced sideways at the man beside her. Look, the degree of this disguise, even Yan Xiaoyi was fooled. Skin them. How could I bear to? The man's mellow and deep voice rose slightly. His long arm stretched out as he pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace, his squinted peach blossom eyes filled with a dense warning. He glanced askance at Yan Xiaoyi, and under his gaze, the latter shrunk her neck dejectedly and jumped a few steps to the side. This ordinary-looking man was His Excellency, the Overlord. She knew it. How would Qing Luo possibly go behind the Overlord's back to look for other men? Even if she were to look for someone, she should find a man who was more handsome than the Overlord. Dmo Xian scoffed lightly as he leaned close to Yiqing Luo's ear. His warm breath sprayed onto her earlobe. His low and hoarse voice was very low, very deep. Do you dare to get close to other men? I can't bear to skin you alive, but I can use other methods to make your waist and legs sore, so weak that you have no way to get close to any man. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as her cheeks flushed red. Chapter 447. Your mother. Simply too beastly. Yiqing Luo pushed Dmo Xian aside and strode towards Yan Xiaoyi, holding her arm, and left the room. Before they reached the inner courtyard, they heard the youngsters' discussions. Our Madam Qing Luo and the Overlord really have that kind of relationship? Are you silly? It's so obvious and you can't tell. No matter how I feel, it's inconceivable. That's the Overlord. The Overlord. Who among the youngsters didn't know Dmo Xian? That mythical existence. Quite a number of families took Dmo Xian's portrait and worshipped him like a Buddha. But he actually appeared in front of them and even smiled at them. What do you mean by that? Could it be that sister isn't worthy of him? Kitty Lee gave a light humph. So what if he's the Overlord? It's his fortune that sister is willing to be with him. Kitty, don't you know who the Overlord is? He's the most powerful person in Nirvana realm. So what if he's the most powerful? Sister will surpass Nirvana realm in future and become one of the top 3. Stop quarreling. A cold and dignified voice interrupted the voices of the crowd. Long Yunzhan placed his hands behind his back as he walked out from the main hall with a pair of azure blue eyes, dull and cold. His vision swept past the youngsters present. What we need to do is to put our thoughts into training and raising our own abilities. As for other matters, it has nothing to do with you. How can it have nothing to do with me? Kitty Lee's brows creased as her ears shook. The reason why the students are discussing this topic is because they care about Sister. Sister's happiness is also very important. Long Yun-jan's brows creased slightly as his icy cold gaze congealed towards Kitty Lee. He didn't say a word as he released an invisible pressure which made all the youngsters present hang their heads down. However, Kitty Lee seemed as though she didn't feel this pressure as she placed her hands on her waist and her petite face was filled with protection for Yi-Ching Luo. All right, why are you quarreling? Xiao Jin saw that the atmosphere wasn't right as he hurriedly tried to smooth things over. The Overlord and Qing Luo standing together, that's called a golden boy and jade girl, a match made in heaven. No matter how you look at it, they look so sweet and blissful, so what are you all worried about? Indeed. When I saw Lord Monarch Zun yesterday, I almost doubted the authenticity of the rumors. The way the Overlord looked at Qing Luo, it almost melted me, such a gentle expression. Lord Dizun is not the only one I want to suspect. One of the youths lowered his voice, his tone filled with uncontrollable mirth. Did you guys see that? Student Yi is usually so valiant in front of us. Powerful and intelligent. But, in front of Lord Dizun, he seems to be a different person. Right. Looking at His Majesty's smile, it's like flowers are blooming. At that moment, I finally realized that Student Yi is actually a girl. I agree. Yi-Ching Luo, who was standing at the corner, kept twitching when she heard that. She turned her head and stared at Yen Xiao-yi, who was laughing so hard that she couldn't stand up straight. Don't tell me I look like a guy usually. Actually, they're right. Yen Xiao-yi leaned against the wall and covered her mouth, trying her best not to laugh out loud. The you from yesterday was like a completely different person from your usual self. Like a completely different person. She didn't even know what she looked like in front of DMO Xian. She obviously felt that there wasn't any difference from usual. Chapter 448. More like a woman. Yi-Ching Luo's heart trembled fiercely. Her cheeks started to feel a burning sensation. All of you only know how to tease me. Yi-Ching Luo bit her lower lip as she gave a humph and walked towards the inner courtyard. On seeing Yi-Ching Luo's appearance, Long Yun-jan's vision was fixed on her. On discovering that there wasn't any other figure behind her, his tensed expression relaxed slightly. Long Yun-jan was just about to walk over when those youngsters who had already lined up started to tease. Student Yi is actually willing to get up, Overlord pinching you. Committee President Yen had already shouted twice before Student Yi finally arrived. Student Yi, you and Overlord. We're together for the entire night. The youngsters' teasing words made Yi-Ching Luo's pretended solemn face turn completely red. No matter how thick her skin was, she was still a lady after all. Seeing that Yi-Ching Luo didn't rebuke them, the youngsters seemed as though they had been injected with chicken blood as they started to clap and laugh. Long Yun-jan's expression suddenly turned chilly. Hearing these students' words, his heart felt strangely stifled. A burst of unspeakable fury started to burn from the bottom of his heart. He didn't know why he was so angry, or why he had such a huge fluctuation in his emotions. This him wasn't like the original him. Long Yun-jan's brows creased slightly as his hands clenched into fists, suppressing the unhappiness in his heart as he spoke in a deep voice. We've already wasted a lot of time, let's set off immediately towards the Mercenary Association. The minute he said that, those youngsters who were still laughing and joking around immediately quietened down. Xiao Jin, who was standing by the side, saw Long Yun-jan's changes. His brows gradually furrowed into a ball, and his eyes darkened. Hearing that they were setting off, the youngsters' expressions immediately turned solemn as they prepared to set off. Wait a minute. Yi-Ching Luo suddenly recalled something as she couldn't be bothered to continue blushing as her fingers touched the ring which was flowing with a demonic red glow. A huge wooden box dropped down from the profound phoenix ring. With a dong, it crashed onto the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Yiqing Luo opened the wooden box and saw that there were strips of black cloth in the box. While the youngsters were still clueless about what was going on, they heard Yiqing Luo saying, "Each of you take 4 gravitational belts and tie both your hands and legs. Other than sleeping, without our permission, you are not allowed to remove it." Gravity belt. The youths were dumbfounded. A young man walked forward and bent down to pick up the cloth. He had thought that it was just a strip of cloth, but how could it be a strip of cloth? This is way too heavy. Each belt has a weight of 20 kilograms. Yiqing Luo calmly glanced at that young man who was holding the gravity belt. "Each person has 4, come over to collect it." These gravity belts were inspired by the weight-bearing accessories in the profound phoenix ring. Changing these weight-bearing accessories into gravity belts was convenient and useful. The youths were about to vomit blood. Each fish weighed 20 pounds, so 4 of them weighed 80 pounds. They had to carry a weight of 80 kilograms every day to accept mercenary group missions. Ao. Indeed, Madame Qing Luo only acts like a woman in front of the overlord. Three Spring Cities Mercenary Association was the Mercenary Association's branch. To establish a mercenary group, they had to first register at the Mercenary Association and obtain the Mercenary Group badge before they could be considered to have established a mercenary group. They were about 2 hours away from the Mercenary Association. The mighty group of 60 over people used their own 2 feet to head towards the Mercenary Association. To put it nicely, walking was also a form of training. To these youngsters, a journey of 2 hours wasn't much pressure at all. Chapter 449. Looking at those few people in front, their footsteps were relaxed and they were brimming with energy. The youths all started to suspect whether the gravity belts on these few people were fake or not. Whereas at this moment, the few people who had been devastated by the youngsters' gazes were walking calmly. Long Yunzhan, Qiao Jin, Yan Xiaoyi, Mo Yuing and the others lined up in a row as they walked in front. Yan Xiaoyi occasionally spoke a few words to Mo Yuing while Mo Yuing listened on expressionlessly. Long Yunzhan was as indifferent as usual with an expressionless face. Only his peripheral vision would occasionally glance towards a certain direction behind him. Qiao Jin, who was by his side, had his brows furrowed with a troubled look, unlike the past where he was the livelier of the atmosphere. And behind these 4 people was Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. The 2 of them seemed to be whispering something, and Yiqing Luo would occasionally laugh out, or raise her fists to punch Dmo Xian as her cheeks flushed red. Apparently, Dmo Xian was teasing Yiqing Luo again. The youngsters were mentally and physically exhausted. While they were physically and mentally exhausted, they still had to accept their dog abusing light waves. How could they live on? After walking for around 1 hour, the group of them arrived at the marketplace which they had to pass to reach the Mercenary Association. Because the mercenary groups had to head to the Mercenary Association to accept the mission, then return to the Mercenary Association to complete the mission and collect the reward. While the mercenary groups were completing the mission, they would conveniently bring back some items which could be sold for money and place them on this route which they had to pass by to trade. 1 or 2 mercenary groups did this, and following that, other mercenary groups followed suit. Over time, this place had formed into a marketplace for merchants to trade items. From the mercenary group's temporary stalls, it had evolved into merchants' shops as far as the eye could see. It was the first time for these youngsters to come to such a place. Seeing the bustling marketplace with a dazzling array of goods, all of their faces revealed a curious expression. Yiqing Luo saw this and pushed Dmo Xian aside as she took several quick steps forward. "Why don't we rest here for a while?" Qiao Jin and the others also surveyed the surroundings. The few of them had been sealed in Heavenly Academy for the past few years, not going anywhere else. Every month's holiday, they would return back to their own homes, accepting the supercilious looks from their family members, so where would they have the mood to go out? At this moment, when they saw this bustling place, their hearts started jumping with joy. Hearing Yiqing Luo's suggestion, he immediately nodded his head in agreement. More than 60 of them gathered together to shop in an orderly manner. It was too eye-catching. Moreover, these youths all had different hobbies. Yiqing Luo simply gave each of them a silver coin and warned them not to create any trouble. Kitty Li, Yifeng Yu and Ni Ruo Pen wanted to follow Yiqing Luo but were forcefully chased out. Long Yunjian was not very interested in these things, so he went to the tea house alone, ordered a cup of tea, and sat there without saying a word. It was rare for Qiao Jin and the rest to have a chance to play, so they directly left Long Yunjian behind. The three of them held hands and went to wander aimlessly in other places. Yiqing Luo was also interested in these, so she pulled Dmo Xian along and wandered around a few stalls. There were many kinds of items in the market, and they were all related to cultivation. There were also merchants who caught low-level magical beasts and put them in wooden cages to sell, attracting the attention of many young ladies. A few of the students from the devil class also crowded around at the side. Monster cores on sale, intermediate and above monster cores on sale at a low price. At the opposite side of the stall which was selling the magical beasts, a loud and clear cry was suddenly heard. Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a magical beast stall not too far away. A young man had one foot on a stool, as his hands kept on dancing. Chapter 450. Magic Beast Core. Yiqing Luo's interest was piqued. Previously in the Magic Beast Forest, because of the beast tide caused by Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo had plundered quite a number of magic beast cores. She even added 3 to 4 magic crystals. She was looking for a buyer to sell these magic beast cores. Yiqing Luo walked to the stall and swept a glance at the stall. These magic beast cores were indeed not bad, all of them were intermediate and above, but there were a small number of low-grade magic beast cores. How much for one piece of low-grade and intermediate magic beast core? The young man beamed with joy when he saw business. Miss has a good eye, the magic beast cores in my stall are all high-grade. Look at these 2 magic beast cores, the low-grade is only 10 silver coins and the intermediate is 50 silver coins. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. This price was definitely not cheap. Thinking back to the young man's solemn vow of, beat me up if it's not cheap, if he really sold the magic beast cores at this price, he would have been beaten up a few hundred times. Yiqing Luo put down the magic beast cores and looked up at him. Are you sure this is the price? Miss, this is definitely the cheapest price. The young man nodded hard, with a sincere look. You can rest assured and buy it. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her vision swept one round. She had roughly guessed why the young man dared to be so unscrupulous, selling the magic beast cores at a high price. Because in the entire market, she estimated that there was only one magic beast core stall. The only magic beast core stall. If anyone was in urgent need of magic beast cores, they could only buy from this stall. Yiqing Luo curled her lips. Since this is the cheapest price, how about this? I have a batch of magic beast cores on hand, about 100 pieces, 30 over intermediate magic beast cores, the rest are all advanced magic beast cores. I will sell them to you at half of the price. How about that? Half. That was 5 silver coins for one piece of intermediate magic beast core, 25 silver coins for one piece of advanced magic beast core. Yiqing Luo's words had just ended. The young man's expression suddenly changed as he slammed the table. Are you deliberately finding fault? He slammed the table and immediately a large group of people dressed in the same attire rushed out from all directions. There were at least 20 people. They surrounded Yiqing Luo and the stall owner together. Their fiendish looks were extremely horrifying. Miss, how dare you make fun of my Iron Blood Warrior's stall? If I don't teach you a good lesson today, how will I have the face to continue living in the marketplace? Predator. What kind of name is that? But Yiqing Luo had roughly guessed that this should be a gang who robbed and sold forcefully. As soon as the young man slammed the table, more than 20 people appeared. It was obvious that this was not the first time they had done something like this. In the entire market, there was only one monster core stall. It was most likely this group of people who had forcefully chased away all the other monster core stalls. Unexpectedly, the first stall she visited was a black-hearted stall. His luck was truly unparalleled. The conflict here immediately attracted the attention of the passers-by. The stall owners next door shook their heads helplessly. The predators have caught another young lady. These people are really too shameless. If we don't buy them, we will be forced to buy them. This is basically robbery. If this goes on, our marketplace's reputation will be ruined. That's right. Recently, our business has been implicated. If this goes on, I will have to change a place to set up my stall. Chapter 451. The young man's icy cold gaze glanced at those stalls who were discussing, "I don't mind letting you change a place to set up your stall now." Those stall owners instantly kept quiet, not daring to open their mouths. The young man retracted his gaze in satisfaction as he sneered at this young lady who looked like she didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. "Young lady, didn't your family tell you that when you're outside, you have to keep a low profile and be careful?" He stood up and walked towards Yiqing Luo. His gloomy cold eyes were like a snake as it wrapped tightly around Yiqing Luo's face. "Why don't you go and find out what kind of people we Iron Blood warriors are, to actually find trouble with me?" The young man suddenly stretched out his hand towards Yiqing Luo as an evil smile appeared on his face. "Young lady, you have 100 over magical beast cores on you. Let brother go and find where those magical beast cores are hidden." Although he said that, but his pair of hands directly extended towards Yiqing Luo's chest. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk. But before she could make a move, a gust of cold wind suddenly blew from her back. The young man in front of her gave a dull moan as his body was sent flying by someone. He landed entirely on the magical beast core's stall. Only to hear the sound of the stall shattering as the magical beast cores scattered all over the ground. Who is who? The young man had just opened his mouth when he spat out a mouthful of blood with a wah sound. He clutched his chest as his entire body was in so much pain that he couldn't stand up. Yiqing Luo's waist was encircled tightly by a strong and powerful arm. Her delicate and soft body was brought into the man's warm and broad embrace. Dmo Xian narrowed his long peach blossom eyes as a cold glint flashed past. He stared coldly at the young man's hand, silently pondering on how to cripple his hand. The young man's face turned pale and under Dmo Xian's gaze, he couldn't help but shiver. "Do you know who we are? We are Iron Blood warriors men." Those 20 over men who surrounded them berated coldly when they saw their own boss injured. Following that, those 20 over men held their weapons tightly as they charged towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The other party was just a man and a woman and they looked delicate and weak. Even if that man was a cultivator, he shouldn't be able to defeat 20 over of them. With that thought in mind, everyone's attacks became fiercer. Sure enough, when they attacked, they saw the man who had just sent their boss flying suddenly let go of the woman's hand. He threw the woman to the ground and flew into the crowd. Are you afraid now?" Facing the joint attack of more than 20 people, even the most powerful profound practitioner would be frightened to the point that his legs would turn to jelly. Not to mention that he was just an ordinary-looking man. Husband and wife are birds of the same forest, but when disaster strikes, they fly separately. These words were indeed true. The 20 or so people did not show any mercy. They directly slashed at the woman's face. Although it was a pity to lose this beauty, but, if they could save the face of the predators, what kind of woman couldn't they get? However, Just when they thought they could easily take this woman's life, they saw the corner of the woman's lips curl up into an extremely enchanting smile. That pair of enchanting eyes that seemed to be able to hook one's soul shone with an intoxicating luster. Yiqing Luo's cold eyes narrowed slightly, and with a flip of her palm, the red feather fan landed in her palm. Her 5 fingers moved and the feather fan opened up. Profound chi gathered and a whirlwind swept towards those 20 over men. That whirlwind was originally light and had no lethality at all. But the minute it neared those 20 over men, it instantly opened its bloody mouth and swallowed those 20 over men. Chapter 452. This scene not only stunned those 20 over people who were lying on the ground. Even the stall owners around them were shocked. This extremely beautiful, skinny little young lady was actually so powerful. Just a wave of her fan and she overturned these 20 over people onto the ground. Everyone's gazes towards Yiqing Luo changed. The stall owner by the side was stunned for some time before he regained his senses as he stammered, "Young lady, these people are all from the Iron Blood Warriors. You'd better hurry and bring your husband away. If you're caught by the Iron Blood Warriors, you'll definitely die." Husband. Yiqing Luo subconsciously turned her head back and looked at the crowd, at that outstanding figure. His lips were curled into a smile, and that ordinary-looking face, under his outstanding temperament, was dyed with a layer of unique charm. That pair of peach blossom eyes revealed a trace of crafty ridicule. Following that, his thin lips opened slightly as he spat out 2 words soundlessly, "Wife." Yiqing Luo instantly felt her cheeks burning hot as she rolled her eyes at him fiercely and retracted her vision. The stall owner looked at the couple's flirtatious expression and became even more anxious. "Don't you believe me? The Iron Blood Warriors are one of the 4 great families, eldest young Master Yuchi's team. They want to register as a mercenary group, and if you offend the Iron Blood Warriors, the Yuchi family will not let you off." This stall owner apparently saw that the Iron Blood Warriors had harmed so many innocent people, so he was trying his best to persuade them. Yiqing Luo revealed a smile as she nodded slightly at the stall owner. "Thank you for your information, I know what to do." Yuchi family. Ever since she joined hands with the Mu brothers to cripple Uchiha, she hadn't heard any news about the Yuchi family for a long time. This eldest young master of the Yuchi family. The Iron Blood Warriors' boss. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh. Just a Yuchi family, she totally didn't care about them. Yiqing Luo directly turned around and walked towards Dmo Xian. She had just taken her first step when she heard Tong Ziqing's furious voice coming from not too far away. "You're simply too much. Trying to cheat us of our money. Damn. Still want to make a move. You really think we don't dare to make a move?" Immediately after, the sound of smashing stalls resounded. The predator. What the hell was that? Very impressive. Let me tell you, even if your boss is here today, I will still beat him up. This was Kitty Lee's voice. I said I won't buy it, so I won't buy it. Do you think that we 3 girls are easy to bully? People like you don't deserve sympathy. Hearing this voice, Yiqing Luo was stunned. Wow, not bad. Under Tong Ziqing's guidance, Ni Rupin also dared to cause trouble. Another predator. Yiqing Luo could totally guess the reason why they were quarreling. Perhaps, they were also forced to buy things. These 3 girls had quite a temper. Being forced to buy something, it was only natural that they were in a bad mood. It seemed like the conflict between them and the predators could not be resolved today. Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Xian along and rushed towards the direction of the sound. Tong Ziqing and the other 2 were surrounded by more than 20 people. The 3 of them immediately made their move and wrestled with the group of people. Beside them was a stall which sold various kinds of clothes made from beast skin. All of them had been swept onto the ground, and in the process of the fight, they were trampled all over. Kitty Lee's nose twitched as she smelled Yiqing Luo's scent. She used her claw to slap away the person who was rushing towards her. Sister, sister, she swayed her body and pounced towards Yiqing Luo. Chapter 453. As Kitty Lee's ears and tail were unable to be kept, Yiqing Luo made some small changes to her clothing design and added a loose black robe. Normally, it would be impossible to see her tail. But at this moment, seeing Yiqing Luo's excitement made her wag her tail uncontrollably. His black robe fluttered at an extremely high frequency. Yiqing Luo naturally saw Kitty Lee's tail wagging nonstop, but she couldn't help but laughed out lightly. Although the beast men maintained their human form, they still retained their animal habits. Kitty Lee pounced forward and was just about to hug Yiqing Luo's waist tightly. Suddenly, an arm appeared out of thin air and stopped her. Kitty Lee lowered her head and looked at the hand that was placed across her waist. She followed the direction of the hand, meeting Dmo Xian's pair of smiling yet not smiling eyes. Kitty Lee's ears immediately pricked up as her body stiffly distanced herself from Dmo Xian. Don't scare her, she's just a child. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes at Dmo Xian, pushed his hand away and walked towards Kitty Lee. Dmo Xian followed closely behind. No. You can only let me hug you, no one else, not even a woman. Damn it. Wasn't this a little too much? Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered with him and held Kitty Lee's hand. Kitty, what's going on? Seeing Yiqing Luo taking the initiative to go forward, Kitty Lee's startled expression immediately turned joyous as she rubbed her head against Yiqing Luo's arm. Sister, it's all right, just a small matter, leave it to us. After rubbing, Kitty Lee revealed a satisfied smile. Then, he charged into the battle again and knocked out a person with a single claw strike. There was a kind of feeling of performing in front of Yiqing Luo. In a short while, the three of them had already dealt with the 20 or so people. Tong Ziqing clapped her hands and snorted coldly. Unscrupulous merchants like you, I can play you to death in minutes. As she spoke, she lifted her foot and stomped on the stall owner's chest. The owner of the animal hide stall was in pain from the beating. When he saw the kick, he was so scared that tears flew out of his eyes. Heroine, please spare my life. Spare my life. I was forced by the eldest young master of the Yuchi family. Ugh. Before he could finish his words, he heard a muffled groan. A dagger was stabbed into the neck of the stall owner. Fresh blood immediately spurted out. The stall owner breathed his last. Tong Ziqing's face immediately turned pale. She immediately retracted her leg and staggered back a few steps. Ni Rupin supported her with a frightened look on her face. Although Tong Ziqing's power was considered to be above average among the students in Devil class. But after all, that was only limited to the Devil class. Towards the outside world, all the students in the Devil class did not understand it at all. It was one thing for them to play around normally, but when they saw a dead person, these young girls were all frightened. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and looked towards the direction where the dagger flew from. A dazzling ray flashed past and Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. Her footsteps swayed as she grabbed Tong Ziqing and Ni Ruo Pan with one hand and flung them to one side. He unfurled the feather fan in his hand, flipped it, and shot it out. With its ding sound, the feather fan seemed to have collided with something in the air. A dagger fell to the ground. Yiqing Luo's fingers moved and the feather fan made a turn, returning back into Yiqing Luo's hand. The direction from which the dagger was thrown was a group of people. It could absolutely be said to be vast and mighty. At least, there were more than 100 of them and all of them were wearing the same clothes as these Iron Blood warriors. Chapter 454. Yiqing Luo frowned. There was an extremely disgusting feeling coming from this person. Momentarily, she wasn't able to describe what kind of feeling this was. The surrounding stall owners immediately picked up the stalls in front of them and ran away. Young Master Yuchi is here. Eldest young Master Yuchi is here. This stance seemed as though they had seen an evil spirit from hell. Eldest young Master Yuchi. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she gazed at the leader. Indeed, his brows and Yuchiya's were similar. Who dares to be so arrogant in the marketplace? Are you looking down on us Iron Blood warriors? A man walked out from behind Yuchi-peng, as he looked at the people lying on the ground, as he pointed towards Yiqing Luo's direction and berated her sternly. Whereas that Yuchi-peng's eyes were sinister, shooting out a biting cold glint as he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. After being stared at by this man, that disgusting feeling became even thicker. You Iron Blood warriors are simply black merchants. Count yourself lucky that I didn't beat you to death. Kitty Lee waved her little fists, as her petite face was filled with anger. Tong Ziqing coldly glanced at the hundreds of people, and the corners of her mouth curled up into a cold arc. You even dare to rob and sell to us? Only you black merchants are allowed, and we're not allowed to beat up black merchants. Is there no law on this West Continent? In the marketplace, we Iron Blood warriors are the law. That man gave a cold harumph, as he was arrogant and egotistical. You bunch of stinky lasses who are still wet behind the ears, let us teach you what is called the law. His arm moved, and those 100 over people behind him all pressed towards Yiqing Luo and the others. The surrounding customers who were watching the show, or the stall owners, all started to hide at one side to protect themselves. Not long later, these 100 over people formed several circles, surrounding Yiqing Luo and the others. But these few young ladies, none of their expressions changed. They coldly swept a glance at the 100 over people who were crowding around, as their faces surfaced an excited look. Yuchi-peng's sinister eyes faintly flashed past a treacherous glint which made one flustered. At this moment, the girls who were surrounded suddenly moved like a bolt of lightning, darting among the 100 people. These 100 or so people didn't care about these delicate young girls at all. They were just putting on an act to scare them. All of them held their weapons and did not put much thought into it. When the girls began to move, the 100 or so people were shocked. However, by the time he reacted and counterattacked, it was already too late. Each of these 4 girls was fiercer than the last. Especially the one with the red feather fan. His attacks were so ruthless that it made people wish they were dead. Moreover, the attacks of these 4 girls were extremely sinister and wretched. They were clearly united to defeat this group of people in front of them. By the time the predators had assembled a team and were ready to counterattack, the 4 of them had split up at an extremely fast speed. His movements were swift and agile, and he accurately chose the weakest among them, and began to defeat them one by one. They couldn't react in time. After a few repetitions, the 100 over people, in front of these 4 young ladies, weren't even considered as fart. The man beside Yuchi-peng was anxious, as his face turned ashen. What's going on? How could these young ladies possibly defeat these 100 over cultivators who had been handpicked? They clearly looked weak and frail. Even their profound chi seemed so weak. How could they possibly defeat his 100 over brothers? Chapter 455. There were still 10 over people left standing, and the minute they heard that they should stop, they scampered away faster than monkeys. These 4 young ladies were just too damn ferocious. If they continued fighting, they would definitely end up like the others, lying on the ground unable to get up. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she fixed her gaze on Yuchi-peng through the crowd. As though she was secretly wondering what he was up to. But she saw Yuchi-peng raise his arm. Let's go. That simple word seemed to be wrapped in a layer of frost. That man's face beside Yuchi-peng instantly sunk. How can we leave? These little sluts have hurt so many of our brothers. If we don't get back at them, how are the Iron Blood Warriors going to continue living in the future? Enchanting seemed as though he hadn't heard that man's words as he placed his hands behind his back and turned around to leave. The remaining dozen or so people immediately followed behind Enchanting with their tails between their legs. That man was left standing at his original spot as he flew into a rage. Enchanting. This Duke agreed to join your Iron Blood Warriors in order to do something big in the West Continent. How dare you treat this Duke in this way? Do you believe that this Duke will make your Iron Blood Warriors unable to walk on? After that man finished howling, he placed his hands on his waist as he puffed out his chest, looking extremely complacent. In front, Enchanting, who was leaving, stopped in his tracks. He slowly turned his head back and the expression on his face was still that sinister and strange. Duke Jing, Iron Blood Warriors is currently registering for the mercenary group and it's not advisable to gather to create trouble, otherwise it will affect the mercenary group's development. That pale thin lips opened and closed. Although it was an explanation, but it didn't sound too much respect, but it wasn't impolite either. When that young man who was addressed as Duke Jing heard that, the rage on his face instantly dissipated. He raised his dimples as he rubbed his nose in satisfaction. That's right, that's right. For our mercenary group, this Duke will let these little sluts off and let them live for a few more days. Saying that, he immediately jogged up to Enchanting's footsteps as he followed beside him. Duke Jing is indeed a righteous person. Enchanting's lips twitched as he revealed a gentle smile. Yiqing Luo saw it clearly from afar. That smile didn't reach his eyes. Instead it revealed a sense of strangeness. Duke Jing's face revealed a complacent smile as he placed his hands on his waist and said delightfully, "That's of course." Duke Jing. Ni Ruopan muttered softly, "I've heard news about Duke Jing. He is the monarch's nephew and his father is an old general in the West Continent. When Duke Jing was 8 years old, he died in the battlefield and the monarch sympathized with him. In order to repay the old general, he brought him back to the palace and conferred him the title of Duke Jing. Perhaps because of his guilt towards the old general, the monarch dotes on him a lot. The monarch's nephew. Spoiled by the monarch. He really doted on her quite a bit. He looked to be at least 20 years old, but the way he acted was like a child. This monarch was indeed a cunning fox. Bringing the old general's son who had died in the battlefield back to the palace to be conferred the title of prince, the unrestrained doting, not only did it gain a good reputation, it also completely spoiled Duke Jing's temperament. Arrogant and conceited. After getting used to such a life, he would never have thoughts of avenging his father or rebelling. It was indeed a brilliant move. Spoiled child, no wonder this eldest young master Yuchi has him in his hands. When Tong Ziqing heard that, she scoffed coldly. Towards this kind of useless trash duke who bullied others, she had no interest at all. Didn't you hear the main point? Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly as she glanced sideways at Enchanting's direction. They are going to register their mercenary group. Chapter 456. Group leader is Yuchi family's eldest young master and the sugar daddy is the monarch's most beloved nephew. This backing. We can't be compared. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. How can we not be compared? Ni Ruopen held on to Yiqing Luo's arm as her gentle brows were tainted with a tinge of mischievousness. Our backing is the overlord, who can be compared to our backing. Alright, Ni Ruopan this lass, actually learned bad things from them, knowing how to tease her. Since the Iron Blood Warriors had already stopped, Yiqing Luo and the rest naturally wouldn't chase after them. Enchanting was right about one thing. They were about to register their mercenary group now and there couldn't be any accidents. If they really clashed with Enchanting and the rest, it might possibly affect them and they might not be able to register their mercenary group successfully. The few of them naturally didn't have the mood to shop so they returned to the tea house and each of them ordered a cup of tea, waiting for their brothers to return. The 4 of them in the marketplace earlier had already been spread around the entire marketplace from the stall owner's mouth. When the tea house boss brought over a pot of tea, he stared at the few of them. You few young ladies, newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. You don't know the ferociousness of the bunch of iron blood warriors. The tea house boss saw these few young ladies looking fresh and pretty as he couldn't help but worriedly said a few more sentences. Today they are rushing to register their mercenary group so they will let you off. But after they finish registering. The tea house boss paused as he lowered his voice. They will absolutely not let you off, you have to be careful. Thanks for the reminder. Yiqing Luo could tell that the tea house boss was worried about her as her lips curled upwards. The tea house boss took a few glances at them as he shook his head and sighed as he went to busy himself with the other tables. Something happened. Long Yunjan, who had been silently drinking his tea, suddenly opened his mouth. That pair of azure blue eyes stared straight at Yiqing Luo's face. Small matter. Yiqing Luo waved her hand disapprovingly. Small matter. Long Yunjan's brows creased as he placed the teacup heavily on the table, surrounded by 20 over people and all of them have weapons in their hands. Is this considered a small matter? Haven't you been drinking tea here? How did you know that I was surrounded by 20 over people? I heard about it. Long Yunjan's eyes wandered as he unnaturally shifted his vision away, falling onto the man who was drinking tea elegantly by Yiqing Luo's side. I also heard that when you were surrounded by 20 over people, the overlord pushed you into those people and stood among the crowd, as though it was none of his business. When he said the last few words, he was obviously a little angry, gnashing his teeth as he spat out each word. Yiqing Luo was stunned for a moment before she reacted. You've misunderstood, Ah Xianhe. Before she could finish speaking, she felt her waist tighten. The man beside her had already pulled her into his arms. The man's ink-black hair cascaded over her body like a cloud of smoke. She could feel a man's chin on her shoulder. Speaking of which, as the class monitor, didn't you also choose to stand by and watch when Lil Luo Air was surrounded? The man's deep voice was like a ghost as it sounded beside her ear. Long Yunjan's face darkened, and the hand holding the teacup tightened. This is different. It's indeed different. Dmo Xian nodded his head in agreement as his peripheral vision casually casted a glance at Long Yunjan. I'm Lil Luo Air's future husband. You indeed cannot be compared to me. You. Long Yunjan's heart was filled with restless anger as it surged up once again. He had always been calm and could deal with anything calmly. Chapter 457. Long Yunjan could tell that Dmo Xian was intentionally saying that he was watching with folded arms. The motive was to warn himself that he was Yiqing Luo's future husband. But, why would Dmo Xian give him such a warning? Long Yunjan frowned, unable to understand. You. What nonsense are you talking about? Yiqing Luo raised her fist and pounded on Dmo Xian's chest. Even she could feel that Dmo Xian was intentionally targeting Long Yunjan. Am I talking nonsense? Dmo Xian's 5 fingers clasped her lower jaw, his long and narrow peach blossom eyes were filled with spring water. In future, we will get married, and I will become your husband, don't tell me. Shouldn't I be the future husband? Yiqing Luo's face was flushed red uncontrollably. Her hands clutched Dmo Xian's lapel. In order to conceal the heat on her face, she bit her pink lips and whispered, who can tell what will happen in the future? Also, why are you saying this in front of the class leader and the others? You might be shameless, but I'm not. These are all your brothers. I want them to bear witness. Dmo Xian's eyes overflowed with smiles as he caught hold of Yiqing Luo's little hand which was randomly pounding on him, as he brought it to his lips and kissed it. I saw a scene of dogs being abused as soon as I got here. My eyes are going blind. If I knew this would happen, I would have gone one more round. Madame Qing Luo and the Arch are always abusing the dogs whenever they don't get along. Not far away, the exaggerated howls of the youths could be heard. Dmo Xian had changed his looks and Yi Qing Luo had specially instructed them not to call him overlord outside. These youths directly called him the Arch. They had arranged to meet Yi Qing Luo at the tea house in 1 hour, and when they arrived, they saw the overlord holding on to Madame Qing Luo's hand. That kiss was so beautiful that it made people want to draw this scene. Yi Qing Luo hurriedly withdrew her hand as she stared at Dmo Xian in annoyance and struggled to get up from his arms, pretending as though nothing had happened as she rushed towards those youngsters. "What have you all bought? Let me take a look." Dozens of youths waved the spoils of war in their hands, their faces full of smiles. The students of the devil class gathered at the tea house one by one. The huge tea house was soon filled to the brim. There were also many people standing outside the tea house, holding their teacups. They were talking about the things they had bought. Yi Qing Luo bought some paper and brush from the art stall opposite the tea house and pasted their names on the items which these youngsters had bought and placed them into the profound phoenix ring in batches. While listening to their conversation, it seemed that apart from her, Tong Ziqing, and the other two, no one else had encountered the black merchants of the predators. Yi Qing Luo tidied up the youngsters' purchases and the group prepared to head towards the Mercenary Association. Yi Qing Luo settled the bill with the tea house boss and walked behind. She had just walked out of the tea house when she saw the opposite art stall owner holding onto 2 scrolls as he walked towards Yi Qing Luo. "Young lady, you're the first child who dared to lay a hand on the Iron Blood Warriors. Those of us who set up stalls in the marketplace have been bullied by them, so your actions today have helped us to vent our anger." He passed the scroll to Yi Qing Luo with both hands. "This is a little token of my appreciation. I hope your team will become stronger and stronger." Yi Qing Luo opened one of the paintings and after she saw what was drawn on it, her cheeks flushed red instantly as she furiously closed the scroll and stuffed it into Dmo Xian's arms. Following that, her little figure scuttled towards the group in front. The art stall owner couldn't help but burst out laughing as he gazed at the direction where Yi Qing Luo disappeared. "It's great to be young." Chapter 458. On the scroll, there was a man wearing half a mask, with a devastatingly beautiful woman in his arms. Although he was wearing a mask, but the pair of eyes that were revealed were like peach blossoms, making one intoxicated. Especially the contours of his chin, coupled with that pale thin lips, it was extremely alluring. No matter how one looked at it, it was filled with infinite peerless elegance. The man held the lady's slender jade hand, as he placed it by his lips and kissed it. The lady's face was bashful, as her pair of charming eyes rippled like spring water. The man's brows rose slightly, as his eyes were filled with affection, as his entire face appeared extremely gentle. That gaze seemed to place the lady in his heart, doting and loving, as though she was a treasure. On the side of the scroll, there were a few flamboyant words, "Holding your hand, growing old together." Dmo Xian slowly closed the scroll, as his mind was filled with Yi Qing Luo's bashful face, as though she was escaping, as his thin lips opened and closed, spilling out a few soft laughs. "Thank you, I will treasure it well." Dmo Xian raised his hand, as he cupped his fist towards the stall owner, expressing his gratitude sincerely. The art stall owner took a panoramic view of Dmo Xian's expression and his face was filled with a satisfied smile. "My greatest hobby is to preserve the world's most beautiful scenes forever, as long as you like it." I like it very much." After strolling one round in the marketplace, the youngsters' enthusiasm had yet to dissipate. In less than an hour, the group of them had already arrived at the Mercenary Association. Although it was just a branch of the Mercenary Association, but looking around, within 100 miles radius, it was the Mercenary Association's territory. Majestic atmosphere, the glazed tiles under the sunlight, sparkling with luster. The 30-feet-tall door, open to both sides, was enough to accommodate 20 over people to enter at the same time. 2 guards wielding long spears, dressed in sturdy armor, stood upright, and one look and one knew that they were cultivators of mystic profound grade and above. On both sides of the guards, there were 2 statues of white tigers. That opened mouth, revealing sharp fangs, was vivid and lifelike. Through the open door, one could see the main hall of the Mercenary Association. In front of the long queue, there was a row of 3 missions displayed on the wall, indicating various grades of missions. Mercenary group leaders, lined up to receive missions. This was the first time the youths had seen such a splendid place. Each and every one of them raised their heads in amazement and stared at the mercenary union with widened eyes. This is too big. It was too dazzling. In the future, would they become one of them? They were so excited that their hearts were about to jump out of their mouths. Yiqing Luo looked at the youngster's envious gazes as her lips curled into a warm smile. No matter, not too long later, you will own a place which is even more glorious than this place. The youngster's gazes were resolute as they looked at Yiqing Luo. The hot blood in their bodies was already burning. Amen, we believe you. Yiqing Luo smiled as she strode towards the Mercenary Association's main entrance. Stop! With a stern shout, the 2 guards stretched out their long spears, blocking Yiqing Luo and the others' path. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. Long Yunzhan frowned and looked at the 2 of them coldly. If you want to enter the mercenary union, each person has to pay 10 gold coins. The guard said expressionlessly. 10 gold coins. 10 per person. F***CK. Was it really a good idea to rob the mercenary guild so openly? 10 per person, and there were 60 over of them, that would be 600 over gold coins. No. Not right. This is robbery. Do you really think we don't know the Mercenary Association's regulations? Why haven't I heard that we need to pay gold coins to enter the Mercenary Association? Ni Ruopan shouted coldly. Ever since she found out that they were going to set up a mercenary group, Ni Ruopan specially inquired about some registration matters in the Mercenary Association, but she had never heard that they needed to pay gold coins to enter the Mercenary Association. Chapter 459. Now, you have to pay the gold coins. The guard snorted coldly with an arrogant expression. If you can't pay the gold coins, then get lost, don't block the door. You. Ni Ruopan stomped her feet in anger. You guys are doing this on purpose. The guard swept a disdainful glance at her and finally set his sight on Yiqing Luo. After seeing Yiqing Luo's stunning face, an evil smile appeared on his face. Little beauty, it's not impossible to go in, if you can accompany us brothers. Ah! Before the guard could finish his words, he felt a sharp pain coming from his mouth. Immediately, a thick smell of blood came from his mouth. He coughed violently and spat out a mouthful of blood and a few broken teeth. The other guard's face sunk as he immediately stabbed his long spear towards Yiqing Luo and bellowed, "How dare you create trouble in the Mercenary Association? Are you tired of living?" The guard who was beaten up had yet to pull him back. He didn't even see who was the one who gave the slap on his mouth and suffered it. These people were not people to be trifled with. Only, his teeth had fallen out from the slap and he couldn't even complete a simple sentence. The guard who rushed forward with the long spear was directly kicked out. He went through the main door and fell into the main hall of the Mercenary Association. The group of group leaders who were queuing up were stunned. The surrounding guards heard the news and a group of people immediately rushed over. The guard's internal organs were in pain from the fall and he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His fingers trembled as he pointed to the door and let out an sound. A group of guards looked towards the direction and saw 60 over young men and women standing at the door, and a guard who was covering his face and was in a sorry state. Very quickly, a captain dressed in a guard uniform with an additional badge on his shoulder and a few white feathers on his hat swiftly walked over, who's the one creating trouble in the Mercenary Association and looking down on the authority of the Mercenary Association? You're just in time. I'd like to ask, when do we have to pay 10 gold coins per person to enter the Mercenary Association? Yiqing Luo sneered as her eyes turned sharp. That gaze was like a sharp knife, piercing over fiercely. The captain only felt a chill in his heart. He immediately looked at the guard who had his teeth broken. The guard covered his mouth. His hands were covered in blood. He shook his head furiously, feeling extremely wronged. The captain of the guards frowned as he led a team of guards towards Yiqing Luo. This young lady, our guards are all specially selected guards and their quality is extremely high, so they will absolutely not lie. So, you're saying that I'm deliberately causing trouble? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she laughed softly. I led a bunch of brothers to come all the way to the Mercenary Association, not to register a mercenary group, but to create trouble. She raised her head, revealing a beautiful smile on her exquisite face. Captain, give me a reason. What kind of enmity do I have with the mercenary union? I came all the way here just to cause trouble. The guard captain was rendered speechless by this question. He had worked here for dozens of years, and the Mercenary Association had always been a place that was highly respected by profound practitioners. This group of people who wore the same clothes and were about the same age were obviously here to register as a mercenary group. Normal people would not cause trouble in the mercenary guild. But, as the captain of the guards, he had extreme trust towards his own men. The two of us guards have no enmity with you. There are so many people coming to the Mercenary Association to register as mercenary groups and to take on missions. Why are you the only one to pay gold coins? Chapter 460. This question, I think it's more trustworthy to let your guard answer it. Yiqing Luo licked her lips as her lips curled into an enchanting cold smile. At the same time, her figure flashed. Everyone only had time to see a black afterimage. By the time they fixed their eyes on her, Yiqing Luo had already appeared in front of that guard, with one hand clutching onto his neck. Her slender fingers clasped tightly onto his artery. The sharp fingertips made that guard felt a piercing pain on his neck. The guard wanted to struggle, trying his best to pull, but the force on his neck suddenly increased and his hand instantly went limp. His entire face was flushed red from suffocation. Miss! The guard captain's eyes congealed. To make a move on his subordinate right in front of him, this was simply looking down on his existence. The guard captain waved his palm and a group of guards immediately surrounded Yiqing Luo's direction. Qing Luo! Yan Xiaoyi's face sunk as she was about to make a move. A clear voice was heard, no need to fight, leave it to Lil Luo, Yan Xiaoyi was stunned as she frowned at Dmo Xian, but there are so many of them, no matter how powerful Qing Luo is, these are after all guards who had been through the battlefield. If it's Lil Luo, there's absolutely no problem. His confident words caused the restless people to gradually calm down. Standing in front, the expressionless Long Yunzhan's expression congealed slightly. He had seen it all. Earlier, when that guard spoke obscenities to Yiqing Luo, the one who broke that guard's teeth was Dmo Xian. Thinking back to the marketplace, he used the excuse of being at the tea house, but in actual fact, he was following behind Yiqing Luo, seeing her being surrounded by that magical beast core stall owner and 20 over Iron Blood warriors. At that time, Dmo Xian took action because the magical beast core stall owner attempted to molest Yiqing Luo. Suddenly, Long Yunzhan seemed to have understood something. Dmo Xian wasn't watching by the side, nor was he standing in the crowd to watch. What Dmo Xian gave Yiqing Luo was free love. When Yiqing Luo had a conflict with others, Dmo Xian was more concerned than anyone else. But he let Yiqing Luo settle it. It was because of his trust towards Yiqing Luo, and also because he wanted to give her a chance to grow. Captain, I just want to prove that we just want to register as a mercenary group. Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at the guard captain, or perhaps. Captain is trying to cover up your crime on behalf of your subordinate. The captain of the guards who was charging forward immediately stopped in his tracks. Yi Qing Luo's matter had already attracted the attention of the surrounding mercenary groups. At this moment, they surrounded him and pointed at him. If he really forcefully took Yi Qing Luo down, he was afraid, the mercenary guild would never be able to wash away this stain. He waved his hand and ordered a group of people to stop. What a sharp-tongued girl. Good. I'll give you this chance. The guard captain's eyes were filled with anger as he glared at the guard. You, explain to me clearly what exactly is going on. The guard groaned in pain. His mouth was burning with pain, and his neck was suffocating. He blushed and shook his head furiously. Yi Qing Luo's fingers loosened a little as her lips curled into a chilly smile. Speak, say every single word clearly. If there's any falsehood in your words, this lady will take your dog life right now. If it wasn't for the fact that she was leading a group of brothers today, and had already put on their group's uniform, Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered to go through so much trouble. They were a team. A team that wanted to register as a mercenary group. Before the registration, there must not be any stain. Chapter 461. Captain, save me. She's despising the Mercenary Association's authority. The guard endured the pain as he spat out every single word. Because he was missing a tooth, his words were leaky and his words were unclear. But if he listened carefully, he would be able to understand his words. We were just stopping them to do a routine interrogation. But she made a move. Captain, save me. The guard captain narrowed his eyes. What else do you have to say now? Still not letting him go. You're at death's door and still want to cover up for the mastermind. Have you forgotten who is your master? Yi Qing Luo's fingers suddenly clenched tightly as that pair of enchanting eyes were filled with a thick austere aura. Her chilly laughter was as though the god of death had descended. Really pitiful, this captain who was worried about your life. Just for a little bit of benefit, he didn't hesitate to cheat the captain who had always trusted you. This kind of dog, you don't need it. The lady's voice was sweet and melodious. But that tone was filled with a thick murderous aura. The guard felt the life force in his body gradually disappearing. He opened his eyes wide in terror as he subconsciously looked towards the captain whose face was filled with rage. His heart was filled with shock and Yi Qing Luo's earlier words were lingering in his ears. The guard's lips trembled. I'll say. By the time Yi Qing Luo let go, the guard spat out the words with difficulty. It's the Iron Blood Warriors. He gave us 10 silver coins and asked us to stop. Sister, be careful. Behind, Kitty Lee's panicked voice was heard. Yi Qing Luo's peripheral vision saw a glaring ray coming towards her as she sensitively let go of the guard and instantly retreated a few steps backwards. She saw that guard lying limply on the ground. A dagger was stabbed into his chest. Although the guard was no longer breathing, but before he died, he said the words, Iron Blood Warriors, which was clearly heard by everyone. The guard captain ran up and carried the guard up with one hand. On seeing the dagger on the guard's chest, his expression sunk and turned extremely ugly. Iron Blood Warriors. They were actually from the Iron Blood Warriors. When did these young lads and Iron Blood Warriors get into conflict? Dagger. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as her lips curled in ridicule. Throwing a dagger to silence him was indeed Yu Qipeng's method. She had roughly guessed in her heart that the mastermind behind these two guards looking for trouble was Yu Qipeng. But she was very curious why Yu Qipeng stopped her from entering the Mercenary Association. You guys again. Duke Jing also saw Yi Qing Luo, and the smile on his face instantly turned into anger as he pointed at Yi Qing Luo and howled, "You're really like a lingering spirit that won't go away." After creating trouble in the marketplace, you came to the Mercenary Association to create trouble. While speaking, Yu Qipeng and the rest had already walked over. Yu Qipeng's face was calm, as if the person who had just killed the guard was not him. The corner of his mouth curled into an extremely shallow smile. "Captain, these people are habitual troublemakers, there is no doubt about it." Although his words were soft, the threat and warning in his eyes were obvious. The guard captain's face was gloomy. Now that things had developed to this point, even the stupidest person would know exactly what was going on. But, the captain of the guards took a look at the dead guard in his arms and then looked towards Yu Qipeng's direction, as well as Duke Jing's puffed-out chest with a face of warning. He fell silent. Chapter 462. The surrounding guards received the order and immediately released their profound qi. These guards were all cultivators who were carefully selected by the guard captain. All of their profound qi were at Mystic Profound 3rd grade and above. The highest had even reached Mystic Profound 7th grade. It was rumored that the Mercenary Association's guards numbered up to 1,000 and above. Cultivators with this kind of ability, with 1,000 over gathered together to protect the Mercenary Association's order, which ordinary person would dare to create trouble here? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a chilly smile as her raging flame feather fan swayed gently. It was like a ball of leaping flame on her fingertips, burning continuously as it released a splendid color. The guard captain's vision fell onto that strange feather fan as his eyes instantly felt a piercing pain. His heart started to surge with uneasiness, but Yu Qipeng had already walked to his side, bearing a faint smile as he gazed at him. Duke Jing puffed out his chest as he gesticulated, "Quickly go. Let's see how long this bunch of sluts can be arrogant for. Give them a good thrashing. Give them a good thrashing." The guard captain forcefully suppressed the uneasiness in his heart. Now that things had come to such a state, he could only brace himself and forcefully bring these people to the enforcement room. Yi Qing Luo's vision went one round around the guards and her 5 fingers moved as she was about to strike. Suddenly, a calm and clear voice was heard from behind. "This young patriarch wants to see how the upright and plain-spoken, fair and just guard captain is pressured by the Iron Blood warriors to take action against innocent people." Those guards who had already dashed in front of Yi Qing Luo, upon hearing this voice, all of them tensed up as they subconsciously retracted their hands. When Devil Class's youngsters heard this voice, they all started to retreat as they turned back to look. They saw a lake-colored brocade long robe, with a refined and handsome appearance, playing with a green flute as he strolled over. As he walked, the young man twirled the green flute as his icy cold gaze fixed onto Yu Qipeng. "What a good Iron Blood warrior, your guts aren't small at all. You even dare to threaten the Mercenary Association's guard captain. This young patriarch wants to go to the Yuchi family and ask Patriarch Yuchi personally, since when did your Yuchi family have the rights to criticize the Mercenary Association?" When Yu Qipeng saw the approaching person, his expression congealed. The captain's face turned pale as he took a look at the gloomy Yu Qipeng behind him, and then looked at that young man who was already standing beside Yi Qing Luo. The youth's words were like needles stabbing into the guard captain's body. The guard captain looked ashamed. Young Master Mo, Yu Qipeng and the rest also slightly bowed towards the young man. "Young Master Mo, this young master cannot accept such a gift." The young man sneered and curled his lips in disdain. "Young Master Yuchi's influence has even extended to the Mercenary Union. Perhaps this young master will have to listen to you." Yu Qipeng's face, which had always maintained a smile, now had some cracks. Anyone could tell that what the predators had done in the Mercenary Union had angered young Master Mo. Duke Jing, who was by the side, was instantly unhappy. He had always been the one who could walk sideways in the Western continent, and no matter where he went, he was the most awesome. Now, he actually met someone who was even more arrogant than him. Even he didn't dare to shout at Yu Qipeng. This young patriarch Mo actually dared to use this kind of tone to talk to Yu Qipeng. Duke Jing walked straight up as he raised his arm and pushed towards the young man's chest. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to our Iron Blood Warriors group leader in this way? Are you tired of living? This hand had yet to touch the young man. Chapter 463. Duke Jing was in so much pain that his face turned white as he broke out in cold sweat. Lowly person. How dare you attack this king? I'm going to kill you. Kill you. He was in so much pain that he sucked in a breath of cold air. At the same time, he yelled at the predators behind him, why aren't you capturing this lowly commoner for this king? This prince will bring him back to the palace. However, none of those people dared to take even half a step forward. Yu Qipeng also lowered his head, pretending that he did not see this scene. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose in interest as she kept her feather fan and returned to her own team. Who is this young man? He's not even afraid of offending His Highness, but Yu Qipeng is as cowardly as a dog. Yan Xiaoyi stared at the youth, her eyes filled with curiosity. Ni Ruopan bit her lips as she pondered for a moment. I've investigated before. The Mercenary Association's president is surnamed Mo and Yu Qipeng calls him Young Master Mo. Then this person should be the president's son, the Mercenary Association's Young Master Mo Hanshang. The young master of the Mercenary Guild. No wonder Yu Qipeng was terrified. Yan Xiaoyi blinked her eyes and her lips curled into a teasing smile. No matter how powerful eldest young master Yu Qi is, if he wants to establish a mercenary group and mingle in the mercenary union, in front of young master Mo, he has to behave himself and be honest. Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. These words were indeed true. Although Yu Qipeng was the first young master of one of the four great profound practitioner clans, the Yu Qi family, Yu Qipeng's strength was far from ordinary. But in the mercenary guild, he could only be the leader of the predators. If he were to walk out of the mercenary association and not establish any mercenary group, then his status would be above Mo Hanshang's. But, he wanted the Iron Blood Warriors, he wanted this mercenary group. Then Mo Hanshang would be his superior, and he had the rights to tell Yu Qipeng what to do. This was the authority of the mercenary union. Qing Luo, do you know young patriarch Mo? Yan Xiaoyi asked curiously. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. If he doesn't know us, then why would he help us? Yi Qing Luo shrugged her shoulders, indicating that she had no solution. Mo Hanshang's appearance was not within her expectations. But from the looks of it, Mo Hanshang didn't have any ill intentions towards them. His vision then turned towards Mo Hanshang and the others. With one hand placed behind his back, his posture was elegant and calm as his eyes were filled with ridicule as he glanced sideways at Duke Jing, who was hugging his hands and crying out. He was very calm, completely disregarding the other party's identity. That's right, the predators are really amazing. Mo Hanshang's rosy red lips curled slightly, as a cold arc of ridicule flashed past. Since the Iron Blood Warriors are so powerful, I believe that eldest young master Yu Qi doesn't need the Mercenary Association, and will be able to build your own team. When these words came out, Yu Qipeng's face completely darkened. He took large strides to Duke Jing's side as he lifted his clothes and threw it towards the group of members behind him. Young Lord Mo, Duke Jing has just left the palace and doesn't know anything about the outside world. If he had offended young Lord Mo, I apologize on his behalf. Duke Jing. Mo Hanshang narrowed his eyes as he shot a glance at Duke Jing's direction as he scoffed. No wonder eldest young master was so arrogant these few days. So you've colluded with the imperial family. These words made Yu Qipeng's face turn green and white. Since Duke Jing's brain isn't working well, then this young patriarch shall be magnanimous and not be calculative with you. Mo Hanshang seemed as though he didn't see Yu Qipeng's gloomy expression as he continued talking. Let's do it like this, eldest young master Yuchi, just apologize to these people and beg for their forgiveness and this matter will be over. Chapter 464. The surrounding mercenary groups all sucked in a breath of cold air. Most of the mercenaries had heard of the predators before. Let's not talk about the reputation of the Iron Blood warriors outside. Just recently, Yu Qipeng had been recruiting cultivators and even hooked up with Duke Jing to inject funds into the mercenary group. It was obvious that they were going to register a mercenary group. The other mercenary groups would naturally pay more attention and understand them. Hence, they had some understanding of Yu Qipeng's way of doing things. Asking him to apologize to this group of unknown brats. Do I have to beg for their forgiveness? This was no different from slapping him in the face in front of everyone. Yu Qipeng had just registered his mercenary group today, and if he were to apologize to Yi Qing Luo and the others and beg sincerely, then the Iron Blood warriors would not be able to raise their heads in the mercenary association in future. But Mo Han Shang was obviously grabbing onto Yu Qipeng and not letting go. This sentence seemed reasonable, but in reality, it forced Yu Qipeng into a dilemma. One was to offend Mo Han Shang. One was the pride of the predators. Right now, Yu Qipeng's heart was filled with resentment. Why did Mo Han Shang suddenly appear, to help that bunch of brats? What was the identity of this group of young men and women? Yu Qipeng thought back to when he was in the marketplace. He had handpicked over 100 profound practitioners, but in front of the 4 young ladies, they were so weak that they could not even withstand a single blow. Their tacit cooperation was as if they knew each other's movements. This was definitely not a tacit understanding that could be developed overnight. At that time, he only wanted to register as a mercenary group so that he could be the first to take on the new rare mission. After seeing the 4 girls' skills, in order to save time and register as a mercenary group as soon as possible, he stopped in time. Yu Qipeng saw that these young girls were dressed in the same attire and there were many young boys and girls in the same attire walking back and forth. And the only way to the market was through the mercenary guild. Yu Qipeng guessed that these youngsters wanted to register as a mercenary group. Because of this, he made use of his own identity and sufficient benefits to bribe the 2 guards, preventing Yi Qing Luo and the rest from entering the mercenary association to register their mercenary group. A strong intuition told Yu Qipeng that if these people were to register as a mercenary group, it would definitely become a hindrance to the predators. He had painstakingly spent a huge amount of energy and money to build the predators. They vowed to become the #1 mercenary group in the world. He would not allow anything to go wrong. Everything was going according to plan. But out of nowhere, Mo Han Shang this Qing Yao Jin appeared. What? Young Master Yuchi is unwilling. Mo Han Shang's brows rose as he teasingly curled his thin lips. I, Mo Han Shang, hate people who play tricks in my mercenary association the most. He paused, the smile on his face revealing a bit of eerie coldness. In particular, eldest young Master Yuchi killed my guard in front of my face. When Mo Han Shang said to this point, he intentionally dragged out the last syllable, as he stopped his voice. The corners of Yu Qipeng's mouth twitched, his entire body trembling incessantly from anger. No matter how good he usually was at hiding his emotions, he could not hide the anger on his face at this moment. Young Master Yuchi, even if you stare your eyes out, it won't help. Mo Han Shang gave a cold laugh, as his voice suddenly turned as cold as ice, bribing the guards in the mercenary association, obstructing other groups from registering as mercenary groups, and even killing the guards. Just based on these 2 points, this young patriarch has the authority to chase you out of the mercenary association. You'll be blacklisted by the mercenary union. Chapter 465. In other words, the Predator mercenary group was destroyed, completely destroyed. Young Master Mo, no matter what, I am the young master of the Yuchi family. You should at least give face to the Yuchi family. The veins on Yuchi Peng's forehead bulged as he clenched his fists tightly, enduring the anger that filled his chest. I spit. Mo Han Shang spat out fiercely as he gave a disdainful snort. Face. If this young lord were to kill someone from your Yuchi family and then ask you for face, would you *King give me face? Yuchi Peng's face flushed red, his eyes filled with malice. You don't give Yuchi Peng face, but you have to give this king face. This duke is Uncle Monarch's most doted duke. When Duke Jing heard that, he hurriedly opened his throat to roar. Mo Han Shang sneered, your face is even less valuable. Duke Jing's expression instantly changed as he bared his fangs and brandished his claws as he pounced towards Mo Han Shang. Yuchi Peng forcefully held him back as he ordered the Iron Blood Warriors members to grab hold of Duke Jing. Just as he was in a terrible predicament, a clear and melodious voice rang out, young Master Mo, why don't you give me some face and leave this matter to me? At the entrance of the mercenary guild, a woman in a black outfit walked in. A sweet smile blossomed on her face. Her appearance was stunning, and her temperament was extraordinary. Especially that pair of enchanting eyes, which shone with an intoxicating charm. Yuchi Peng frowned and stared coldly at the girl in front of him. With a single glance, he recognized that she was the most ruthless woman in the marketplace. Yiqing Luo calmly met Captain Qi Peng's gaze, step by step, walking gracefully and slowly, unperturbed. The instant Mo Han Shang saw Yiqing Luo, the cold arrogance on his face turned into a handsome and clean smile. Since young miss has opened your mouth, this face, this young patriarch naturally has to give it to you, so I'll leave it to you to handle. If eldest young Master Yuchi isn't willing to accept your handling, then let this young patriarch handle it personally. He emphasized the last 4 words. Clearly, he was warning Yuchi Peng. Or, follow Yiqing Luo's instructions. Otherwise, he would follow his method and enter the blacklist. The surrounding mercenary group stared at Yiqing Luo in astonishment, as they were totally certain that Mo Han Shang's appearance this time round was to stand up for Yiqing Luo. Everyone was silently guessing, what was this Yiqing Luo's identity? From her looks, could it be that young Master Mo was young Master Mo Han Shang? When this thought flashed past their minds, many mercenary groups started. From how Mo was protecting this young lady, there was this possibility. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about what the others thought. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to guess why Mo Han Shang helped her. Yi Dragon Master Yang Shang Li, she said. You God, he did, said, Yi, he said, you, I, said, he. With that said, she shook her head with a look of pity. Young Master Yuchi, you just need to apologize to my party and hand over the first mission you've accepted. That will do. Yi. Chen, Yi. Chi Yu. Yi. Ling. She. He thought. He. Too. Apparently, he was anxious to register his mercenary group in the Mercenary Association. From those stall owners' words, it was obvious that Iron Blood Warriors had existed for a long time. They had never registered their mercenary group. But at this moment, the reason was so urgent. There was a possibility that Yuchi Peng had heard some news, and there would be a mission today which made Yuchi Peng interested. Chapter 466. As expected, after she mentioned Yuchi Peng handing over the mission, Yuchi Peng's expression turned steely green. That pair of venomous eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's long eyelashes fluttered as she innocently tilted her head. Eldest young Master Yuchi, why are you staring at me for? I'm giving you a way out of this embarrassing situation. If you're not willing, then just treat it as though I didn't say anything. That spirited eyes twinkled as they were clear and moist. That look, no matter how one looked at it, it seemed as though she was doing the Iron Blood warriors good, especially making a compromise. When the surrounding mercenary group saw the young lady's aggrieved look, their sympathy immediately overflowed as they all stood up for Yiqing Luo. This young lady has already taken a step back, eldest young master Yuqi, you should also take a step back. It's just a mission, giving it to this young lady to protect your own mercenary group isn't a huge loss. The Iron Blood warriors killed people in the Mercenary Association and instigated the guards to stop these young ladies from entering the Mercenary Association. This has already violated the Mercenary Association's regulations and can totally be blacklisted. Iron Blood warriors are taking advantage of us. It wasn't easy for this young lady to establish a mercenary group. As the eldest young master of the Yuqi family, why must he be calculative with a young lass? These mercenary groups were mostly boorish and boorish people. On one side was a mercenary group with a strong backing and the royal family's investment. On the other side, there was a small group of yellow profound realm Xian practitioners who had come out of nowhere. Naturally, everyone's scales were tilted towards the weaker side. Especially when Yiqing Luo's looks were peerless and she put on an innocent look. How would these mercenary groups remember the scene of Yiqing Luo interrogating the guards earlier? The crowd's discussions made Yuqi Peng's face turn steely green and gradually turn pale. Yuqi Peng was very clear on how important reputation was to a mercenary group. If he were to give up on the Iron Blood warriors and never step into the Mercenary Association ever again, he absolutely could not do it. The Iron Blood warriors had spent so much effort and only he himself knew the hardships involved. How could he bear to? But this mission. Rare grade mission. If he were to hand it over, wouldn't it be a waste of time for him to bring his team to the Mercenary Union to register? Yuqi Peng, I feel that what they said makes sense. Duke Jing was grabbed by a few members and by now, he had calmed down quite a bit as he finally became smart for once. Think about it, apologize and hand over this mission. At least our Iron Blood warriors will be saved. There would always be rare missions in the future. But if we really let young Master Mo blacklist the Predator, we won't be able to keep our current mission. Duke Jing's words were right on point. Yuqi Peng naturally understood this logic. But, if they apologized, they would be lowering their heads to a small, unknown team. The reputation and prestige of the Predators would be greatly damaged. It also indirectly admitted that the Predators were causing trouble in the Mercenary Guild. This stain would always be with the Predators. Even if the Predators became the #1 mercenary group in the future, it would become a dark history for others to laugh at. As for this small team, but because of his magnanimity today, his name would spread throughout the mercenary world. Famous, a good reputation. Yuqi Peng's pupils suddenly constricted. He suddenly raised his head and stared at Yiqing Luo's bright smiling face as his heart tightened. Chapter 467. Mo Han Shang's appearance gave Yiqing Luo a chance. Eldest young Master Yuqi and Duke Jing's face was something which Mo Han Shang totally disregarded. But unfortunately, the minute Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, Mo Han Shang was beaming with joy and he even stood up for Yiqing Luo without any reason. Yiqing Luo's solution sounded as though she was wholeheartedly thinking for the Iron Blood warriors. She only wanted to turn the big problem into a small one and the small one into nothing. Moreover, she put on a saintly look, willing to forgive everything which they had done. But in actual fact, the one who benefited the most from this matter was Yiqing Luo's group. Not only had they obtained this rare mission, they were also able to create a good reputation for their own mercenary group. From today onwards, there would probably be many mercenary groups in the mercenary world who were willing to be on good terms with this mercenary group which was formed by young lads. As for himself, Iron Blood warriors was the staircase which Yiqing Luo had climbed up. Yuqi Peng asked himself that he was adept in scheming, but today, he had fallen into the hands of a young lass. Till now, he was still unable to tell that between Emo Han Shang and Yiqing Luo. Had they long known each other? His heart was filled with unwillingness, but Yu Qipeng could only bear with it. Finally he gave in. No matter what, the Iron Blood warriors must be preserved. Where there's life, there's hope. A bunch of kids who hadn't even grown their hair. He would deal with them in the future. Yu Qipeng clenched his teeth tightly as he took out a scroll from his bosom and threw it into Duke Jing's arms. Go. Duke Jing caught the scroll as he looked at Yu Qipeng in a daze. It took some time before he realized that he was asking him to apologize to Yiqing Luo. Persuading was one thing, but to ask him, a dignified duke, to lower his head and apologize was another matter. His wrist was broken by Emo Han Shang and he still wanted him to apologize. He had never suffered such humiliation in his entire life. Duke Jing, you're a duke and your face is bigger than mine. If you go, then it will show your sincerity. It will also show your status among the Iron Blood warriors. Yu Qipeng saw that Duke Jing's expression wasn't right as he lowered his voice and said that. Duke Jing was coaxed till he was elated and immediately had no more opinions. Holding the scroll, he walked towards Yiqing Luo and Duke Jing directly passed it over with a black face. The mission is for you, and for today's matter, this duke represents the Iron Blood warriors to apologize to you. What a simple-minded fellow. Yiqing Luo snorted coldly and kept the scroll in her hand. She hadn't established a mercenary group yet, so she couldn't open the mercenary guild's mission scroll. Earlier Duke Jing and Yu Qipeng's conversation, she had heard it all. It seemed like her guess was right. The reason why Yu Qipeng hurriedly registered his mercenary group was because of this mission. Rare quest. He didn't know what level the mission was. But looking at the general standard of the Iron Blood warriors, these youths in Devil class were definitely above them. Since Yu Qipeng dared to accept this mission, he definitely had a well-thought-out plan. Since that was the case, the youths in Devil class should also be able to complete it. Yiqing Luo kept the mission into her bosom as her eyes were filled with a smile, so Duke Jing is the Iron Blood warriors group leader. When Yu Qipeng heard this sentence, he gritted his teeth in anger. He took a deep breath. His expression was stiff and ashen as he walked over with large strides. His pair of cold eyes were filled with a biting cold killing intent. I, the leader of the Iron Blood warriors, apologize to your team. A sneer flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes. Chapter 468. Say. What could he say? What else could he say? He had many objections. However, he could only suppress these objections in his heart. This little slut, did she think that with Emo Han Shang as her backing, she could do whatever she wanted? Look at that expression. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that eldest young Master Yuchi was preparing to find someone to kill me after I leave the Mercenary Association, to snatch the mission scroll. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips, as her quick-witted eyes were mixed with a sliver of fear. The surrounding mercenaries nodded in agreement. This kind of thing was not unheard of. Everyone could tell that Yu Qipeng's emotions were currently in a violent rage. Apparently he had a deep grudge against Yiqing Luo. In front of Emo Han Shang, in order to ensure that his Iron Blood warriors could continue on, he would lower his head to Yiqing Luo. But what if he left the mercenary guild? How is that possible? Yu Qipeng's face darkened, and he had the embarrassment of having his thoughts seen through. He shifted his gaze and raised his voice as he roared in panic, Yu Qipeng, and the eldest young master of the Yuchi family, I still have this bit of credibility. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a cold smile. She was waiting for Yu Qipeng to say this sentence. Emo Han Shang's palms clapped, as he placed it on Yu Qipeng's shoulder. Since that's the case, this young patriarch will believe you. In future, if anything happens to this bunch of young mercenary groups, this young patriarch will just place all onto the Iron Blood Warriors. That's the happy decision. The veins on Yu Peng's forehead throbbed. His face was completely devoid of any color. His eyes were already burning with rage, shooting out an intense fury. This was simply going too far. Just by looking at Yiqing Luo, who was the leader, one could tell that if this mercenary group was really established, it would absolutely not be a group that knew their place. In the future, he would definitely make many enemies. What's more, as a mercenary group, it was inevitable that something unexpected would happen when they were on a mission. Could it be that the predators had to take the blame for all this? This was simply forcing them, the Iron Blood Warriors, to protect Yiqing Luo and the others' safety. Too treacherous. Too sinister. Mo Han Shang seemed as though he couldn't see Yu Peng's rage burning as he directly turned his head towards Yiqing Luo, and his voice was clear and bright. "Young lady, aren't you going to register your mercenary group? Go and line up with your brothers." Yiqing Luo cupped her hands in greeting as her lips curled into a grateful smile. "Many thanks to young Patriarch Mo for being impartial and selfless, helping us brothers to obtain the opportunity to register a mercenary group. The Mercenary Guild exists to provide the best and most convenient service to all mercenary groups." Mo Han Shang waved his hand. "One person's strength, no matter what, cannot be compared to the strength of an entire team. I hope that the Mercenary Association will be able to personally witness one strong team after another being established here, to achieve glory here." Yiqing Luo nodded in agreement. She and Mo Han Shang had the same viewpoint. No matter how strong a single person was, he couldn't be stronger than a team. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up with a spark of conviction as her face beamed with smiles as she turned her head to look at the entrance, at those brothers and sisters. "Brothers, the team that belongs to us is officially established. He belongs to our team. Our team." Deafening voices came from the mouths of these boys and girls. Those young faces were filled with trust towards Yiqing Luo. In their bodies, their blood was boiling. Chapter 469. Long Yunzhan was slightly stunned. Looking at Yiqing Luo's outstretched hands, his heart inexplicably sped up. Strange, why was his face suddenly burning up? He was a human dragon, and by right, his body temperature should always maintain a certain temperature. How could it possibly be burning up? Long Yunzhan was still in a daze when Yan Xiaoyi used her elbow to nudge him. "Class monitor, what are you in a daze for? Are you too happy?" Long Yunzhan instantly regained his senses as his azure blue eyes blinked. Suddenly he realized something as his gaze shot towards Yiqing Luo's direction, and following that, he raised his eyes to look at the man beside him. Dmo Xian's eyes were calm as he crossed his arms in front of his chest, and a pair of bewitching peach blossom eyes stared at Yiqing Luo. That gaze seemed to be able to see everything in the world, and he could only see Yiqing Luo alone. Long Yunzhan's heart twitched fiercely with an indescribable strange feeling. He frowned. Why was it that recently his body seemed to be not right? Especially after Yiqing Luo was assassinated and he revealed his blue dragon original form to save Yiqing Luo, something was amiss. Could it be was because he had transformed into a blue dragon? Long Yunzhan bore with this strange feeling as he walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Standing beside Yiqing Luo, he slowly raised his eyes. His gaze was extremely indifferent and his voice was as indifferent as usual. "I had always wanted to bring my brothers to charge out for the #1 spot that belongs to us, to let you stand at the highest point and announce to the world that you are absolutely not trash." That calm voice, when he said these words, the excitement and joy on the youngsters' faces started to burn even more. "Now, it's time for us to take the first step towards our goal, to establish a mercenary group that belongs to us, our home." The youngsters' trembling voices once again rang deafeningly. "We pledge our lives to follow group leader." The youngsters' four gazes met, and in each other's eyes, they saw the firm belief. They believed that one day in the future, they would be able to get rid of the title of trash and be revered by the world. This scene also influenced the surrounding mercenaries. What was the motive for everyone to establish a mercenary group in the first place? What was their original intention? After going through the wear and tear of time, experiencing the test of reality. In the end, the so-called mercenary group had already become a job to support their families. These youngsters were all emitting the ray of hope. He could see hope in them. Perhaps, after these youths formed their own mercenary group, they would be able to help them find the original intentions they had when they first formed their own mercenary group. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were filled with smiles as she tugged Long Yunjian's sleeve. The two of them walked together into the main hall and lined up behind those registered mercenary groups. Perhaps because of this interlude, the atmosphere in the mercenary guild fell into a strange sense of urgency. Everywhere was burning, that kind of blood-boiling feeling. The registrar deftly dealt with the people who came to register one after another, and after a cup of tea's time, it was Yiqing Luo and Long Yunjian's turn. The registrar gave Long Yunjian a piece of white paper, which required the leader to fill in the registration information. When he saw the first column, Long Yunjian glanced sideways at Yiqing Luo, mercenary group's name. Name? The meaning was, she came up with names. Yiqing Luo wanted to ask him to think about the name himself, but thinking of Long Yunjian's character, he would probably find it troublesome and directly write a devil class, then she would be tipsy. You. What name do you want? She could not bring herself to ask the last few words. Chapter 470. Because when Yiqing Luo raised her eyes, she saw those 60 youngsters outside the main hall, staring at her fervently. Their eyes were filled with hope. They had passed their faith to Yiqing Luo. Suddenly, there was a heavy feeling on his shoulders. However, this kind of heaviness made her feel satisfied. Yiqing Luo's gaze finally fell onto Dmo Xian. Their four eyes met, and she saw the gentleness and encouragement in Dmo Xian's eyes. This mercenary group's name would be decided by her. Yiqing Luo's pink lips trembled as her slightly trembling voice slowly rang, "The world, we will carve out a world that belongs to us." Her smile grew bigger by the corner of her lips. Enchanting like a blooming rose. I promise you a world. Her slender wrist lifted up as Yiqing Luo stretched out her index finger, and in mid-air, one stroke at a time, she wrote down the two words, the world. The World Group, the World Mercenary Group. This was their mercenary group's name. What they promised was the entire world. The youngsters' eyes sparkled as they clenched their fists and raised their arms up high, shouting excitedly, "The World Mercenary Group! The World Mercenary Group! Our world!" The deafening roar was filled with passion that infected one's heart. The surrounding mercenaries couldn't help but followed along and shouted out this name. The corners of Long Yunjian's mouth curled into a smile on his usually cold and indifferent face. He raised his pen and wrote "The World Mercenary Group" in the name column. The world. The world that Yiqing Luo promised. The world that belonged to them. After the mercenary group application form was filled, the registrar's information was stored in the Mercenary Association's memory stone. The memory stone flickered for a few times and a palm-sized badge surfaced. The registrar used a secret technique to draw on the badge twice before passing it over to Long Yunjian. This badge represented the World Mercenary Group's symbol. The badge was worn by the group leader. This badge could be used to set up the vice group leader, law enforcement group leader, finance group leader, etc. Once it was set up, the badge would produce a badge which represented the setup position. The newly established mercenary group was an ordinary mercenary group, and the maximum number of people could only accommodate 100 people. Because of that, this group leader badge could at most produce 100 member badges, which included various positions. If a mercenary group wanted to be promoted to a bronze mercenary group, they would have to accept a mission, obtain mercenary group honor points, and then apply to the registrar for an upgrade. It was said that there were too many restrictions and regulations in a mercenary group. However, becoming a mercenary group was much more convenient than forming your own team and traveling around. The reason why Yiqing Luo chose to form a mercenary group from Devil Class's students was because of convenience. With the badge, as long as they didn't leave Three Springs City, they could communicate with the mercenary group at any time. It was also commonly known as 1,000-mile sound transmission. However, conversing required strong mental power and profound energy. Moreover, when a mercenary group accepted a mission, they could obtain detailed information about the mission. For example, the mission location, difficulty, and the general situation of the mission would be clearly marked. This way, Long Yunjian only needed to consider the strength of the team and choose whether to accept the mission or not. At the very least, it was better than leading a group of people blindly out for experiential training. If the place they went for experiential training exceeded their expectations, their lives would be in danger. Moreover, after the mercenary group completed the mission, they would receive a generous reward from the person who issued the mission. These rewards weren't just money. There would also be many rare treasures, medicinal herbs, and pills. In short, there would definitely be rewards corresponding to the difficulty of the mission. Chapter 471. The World Group. Not bad, a good name. Mo Han Shang clapped his hands and praised, "This world, this young patriarch is also interested. Do you want to count this young patriarch in?" Everyone was stunned by his words. The dignified young master of the mercenary guild wanted to join an unknown mercenary group made up of a bunch of brats. Could it be that he was completely infected by the passion of these youths? If Mo Han Shang really joined this world mercenary group, then this mercenary group would be incredible. He could do whatever he wanted in the mercenary guild. At this moment, Yu Qipeng and the others who were standing by the side had ashen faces, as though they were about to explode. Mo Han Shang's intervention had already caused the Iron Blood warriors to completely lose their face. Even now, their faces were still burning with pain. Mo Han Shang actually wanted to join the mercenary group established by those youngsters? What kind of F*King luck did these little bitches have? If it was any other mercenary group, once they heard that the young master of the mercenary guild wanted to join their group, they would be overjoyed and welcome the young master to join. However, the young mercenaries who had won the first prize did not have the slightest bit of excitement on their faces. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as her slender brows creased, as she scrutinized Mo Han Shang. From the moment this person appeared, he stood on their side and stood up for her without any reason. Yiqing Luo didn't believe that it was because Mo Han Shang couldn't stand seeing people doing tricks in the mercenary association, or any other simple reason like that. No one will be good to you for no reason. This so-called good was a mixture of motives and benefits. Especially strangers. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes slightly. "Give me a reason." The surrounding mercenaries were about to vomit blood. Damn it. Young Master Mo joining their mercenary group was like gold falling from the sky and smashing in front of them. What reason was there to ask? Directly put the badge on young Master Mo. Their inner roars didn't affect Yiqing Luo at all. As the group leader, Long Yunjian, with a pair of azure blue eyes, stared at Mo Han Shang indifferently, as though he was waiting for his reply. "I was there too. I saw everything." Mo Han Shang's handsome brows twitched, the smile on his handsome face was very clean. "Your way of doing things suits my taste." He saw everything. Did he see them fighting the predators? Alright, there's no problem in letting you join the world group. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and raised a finger, but, because of your young patriarch Mo's identity, you must promise us a condition. What condition? After joining the World Group, you will be an ordinary member of the World Group. Mo Han Shang joining the World Group was beneficial to the World Group. Moreover, he was wholeheartedly trying to help her and had automatically raised the request to join the World Group, so by right, Yiqing Luo should agree to it. However, the ugly words had to be said first. If Mo Hanshang were to make use of his mercenary association's young master's name to disrupt the World Group's order, then, she would absolutely not fear this young master's identity. When he made his move, he would definitely not hold back. This condition made the surrounding mercenaries envious and jealous, but at the same time, they couldn't help but want to strangle Yiqing Luo to death. All of them sighed helplessly. Children were still children. Establishing a mercenary group was just for fun. Such a good opportunity was presented to him, but he didn't know how to grasp it and even wanted to negotiate with young Master Mo. If they were able to invite young Patriarch Mo into their own group, even if they were to give him the position of vice group leader, they would be willing. Just as everyone was sighing, they heard Mo Han Shang, who had an arrogant look when facing Yu Qiping earlier, chuckling as he spat out 3 words, "No problem." Everyone, what the heck? Chapter 472. After registering the mercenary group, Mo Han Shang invited them to use the Mercenary Association's guest hall to rest. The conference hall was large enough to accommodate about 400 people. Benches were arranged in rows around the room. The 60 or so youths found a place to sit. A dozen attendants came over with teacups and poured a cup of tea for everyone. Long Yunjian took the commander's medal and split it into a vice commander's medal and an executive commander's medal. The rest were all member badges. After this vice group leader badge was taken out, the youngster's vision immediately shot towards Yiqing Luo. The mercenary group was suggested by Yiqing Luo, and ever since she joined the devil class, many principles were taught by Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's kindness towards them was something that they could all see. Vice leader, Yiqing Luo was the most suitable candidate. Qiao Jin, who was seated opposite Yiqing Luo, hooked Yan Shaoyi's shoulder with one hand as he shook his head and wailed, "Sigh, this bunch of little brats, when Qing Luo wasn't around, they treated me like a treasure. But after Qing Luo came, I'm just a blade of grass. Who asked you to be ugly?" Yan Shaoyi rolled her eyes and slapped the hand on her shoulder, "Take it away. We're all men. What's wrong with a shoulder?" Qiao Jin felt the pain on the back of his hand. He covered his hand and retracted it. "You're like a girl. No wonder you also became a blade of grass. You're the King Sissy. I am a woman to begin with. Who's a man with you?" Yan Shaoyi stood up abruptly and slapped Qiao Jin's face that wasn't considered handsome. Qiao Jin stood up from the chair in shock, one hand covering his face while the other supporting himself on the chair in front of him. With a flip, he leaped over the long bench and rushed towards Long Yunjian. "Look at you, how are you a woman? Boss, save me." The two's antics had livened up the atmosphere in the hall. The youngsters' faces were filled with radiant smiles as their gazes wandered between Yiqing Luo and Long Yunjian. In his heart, he was both excited and nervous. He had his own team, his own mercenary group, and his own belonging. However, at the same time, they were nervous. He was worried that he wasn't strong enough, worried that he would drag down the entire team. Sitting on the bench and looking at the member medals piled up on the table, they became more and more nervous. Qiao Jin and Yan Shaoyi's banter relaxed the moods of these youths considerably. The position of vice commander is too important. With my personality, I can't take it. Yiqing Luo pushed the vice group leader badge towards Long Yunjian's direction. "I'll be a small member, pass the vice group leader badge to Jin Zi." Don't. If you hand it over to me, this bunch of brats will definitely kill me. Xiao Jin waved his hand. Just take it. I'm actually quite interested in this executive captain position. His eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He directly reached out and took the medal of the executive commander in his hand. F***CK. That's mine. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes narrowed and she immediately rushed towards Xiao Jin to snatch the executive regiment commander's medal. Xiao Jin waved the medal in his hand at her, the corners of his mouth hooking up in a proud smile as he put the medal on his chest. The medal suddenly emitted a blue light. In an instant, the light had already covered Xiao Jin. Slut Jin. Yan Xiaoyi was so angry that she gritted her teeth. After the medal was put on his chest, this medal was bound to Xiao Jin. Chapter 473. F***CK. Scumbag Jin was indeed a scumbag. Yiqing Luo looked at this pair of quarrelsome lovers as she couldn't help but laughed. Xiao Yi, why don't I give you the assistant group leader's badge? In this way you will be his immediate boss. Qing Luo. You can't do this. Xiao Jin exclaimed. Yan Xiaoyi stared at Xiao Jin before retracting her vision and looking at Yiqing Luo. She shook her head. In order to be his top boss, we have to sacrifice ourselves. It's really not worth it. This kind of arduous task, it's better to leave it to you. In the end, the vice group leader's badge still landed in Yiqing Luo's hands. Right from the start, Yiqing Luo had only intended to be a small member in the mercenary group. After all, her personality was indeed not suitable for the position of vice leader. Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi were at least members of the Devil Class's class committee. After managing the Devil class for such a long time, they should be the most suitable candidates. Take it. A clear and cold voice suddenly entered his ears. Long Yunzhan, who was by her side, stared at Yiqing Luo indifferently. Everyone wishes for you to be the vice group leader and you have enough qualifications to be the vice group leader, so there's nothing suitable or not suitable about it. Yiqing Luo was just about to speak when her waist suddenly tightened and she had already been pulled into Dmo Xian's arms. Her face bumped into Dmo Xian's broad chest. Dmo Xian's other hand covered the back of her head. Lil Luo, no matter if it's a member or vice group leader, every single action of yours will represent the world group and this is something that cannot be avoided. The man's clear voice was as mellow as fine wine. That word by word actually expressed all the worries in Yiqing Luo's heart. After being together for so long, I believe your brothers must have some understanding of your personality. Since they chose you, it means that they trust you. You are a team, a mercenary team. Dmo Xian's fingers gently caressed Yiqing Luo's fine black hair. His actions were gentle and tender. No matter what you want to do in future, they will follow you, isn't that so? Yes. The 60 or so youths who were seated stood up one after another, their faces filled with determination. No matter what happens, we will always be a team. Somewhere in Yiqing Luo's heart seemed to have been struck by something as it gradually softened. Her eyes were filled with tears. Her long, curly eyelashes trembled slightly, bringing out a drop of crystal clear water. She pursed her lips tightly. After a long while, she reached out her hand and held the medal that symbolized her position as the vice regiment commander in her hand. Since everyone trusts me so much, then I shall not be unreasonable. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a faint smile. Her slender fingers curled up the medal in her palm one by one. It was as if he wanted to brand the medal into his flesh and blood. When the youths saw that she accepted, they instantly let out a wave of cheers. Clear and sonorous voices resounded in the air above the living room. Vice Commander! Vice Commander! Vice Commander! The shouts gradually died down. Long Yunzhan looked down at the youths in uniform. and an extremely faint smile gradually appeared on his face. After some time, he retracted his vision and returned to the main topic. Qing Luo, right from the start, you've been eyeing the Iron Blood Warriors mission. Qiao Jin was still fooling around with Yan Xiaoyi when he heard about the mission. As for that mission, probably all the youths in the world group would want to know what it was. Based on Yi Qing Luo's character, she actually only asked for a mission which the other party didn't know about and let them off. Although this had already made the other party lose face, and the ones who gained the advantage were them. Chapter 474. That mission is a rare mission. Yi Qing Luo took out the mission scroll from her bosom as she placed it on the table. Her vision shot towards Emo Han Shang. Why don't young patriarch Emo introduce what is called a rare mission? I've already joined the world group and now I'm an ordinary member of the world group. Why are you still calling me young patriarch? Emo Han Shang's brows rose as half his body leaned on the long chair. Call me Han Shang, this way it will make us seem closer. Yi Qing Luo complied with his intention. All right, Han Shang. As everyone knows, the Mercenary Association's missions are split into several grades according to the mercenary group's ability. Low grade, intermediate grade, high grade and complicated grade missions. And among these grades, they are further divided into experience training missions and rare missions. Saying that, Emo Han Shang stood up as he walked to the center of the guest hall. He opened up his arms as he spoke excitedly. Experience training missions are the more common grade missions. Even if it's accepted by other mercenary groups today, there will be a new employer who will issue the same mission tomorrow. This is also the easiest grade mission to complete. Whereas rare missions are those mysterious clans, similar to the 4 great clans, for great sects and such large clans. They are very mysterious as they secretly look for the Mercenary Association to apply for this mission. These missions, generally speaking, if one could encounter it once, it would only happen once. So the rewards for rare missions are absolutely generous. But as compared to experience training missions, the difficulty is much higher. Everyone's eyes shone as they heard that. It was rare to encounter a rare mission. The first mission they received was a rare mission. He did not know what level of rare mission this was. Qing Luo, how did you know that Iron Blood Warriors had received a rare mission? Qiao Jin finally understood the reason why the vengeful Yi Qing Luo gave up on punishing Yu Qipeng because of a mission. Yi Qing Luo explained her guess towards Yu Qipeng in a concise and comprehensive manner and immediately explained, who said I'm going to let Yu Qipeng off. Iron Blood Warriors had just registered as a mercenary group today and had already lost all their face. They will definitely not be able to have a smooth journey in the near future. Furthermore, with Han Shang's words earlier, even if they are angry, they won't dare to make a move on us. Her eyes were curved as it flashed a crafty smile. This is even more torturous than killing them. Moreover, if we let him off, the world group's good name would at least be known in the mercenary world. How black-bellied. How treacherous. If we were to discuss who is the old fox in the world group, if Qing Luo is second, no one dares to claim to be first. Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi looked at each other and said in unison, but, we like it. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she picked up the scroll and opened it little by little. On the back of the scroll, there were 4 words, high-level quest. Holy **T, it's actually a high-level rare mission. This look. Qiao Jin stared at the 4 words, unable to sit still in his chair. Yi Qing Luo placed the scroll on the table. The details of the mission were clearly written on the top of the scroll. Head to the Death God Castle and obtain the exquisite pagoda. After the mission is completed, the reward will be 500 gold coins, a bottle of scarlet dragon dew, a stalk of profound ice immortal root, a bundle of infant grass, and 150 mercenary group honor points. 500 gold coins. This was indeed a huge sum of money. There was also the red dragon dew, which was a high-quality external injury medicine. With just a drop, it could immediately heal any wound on the body without leaving a single scar. This was a medicine that many female profound practitioners coveted. Chapter 475. Profound Ice Immortal Root, Ean Infant Grass. These two medicinal herbs were exactly what Yi-Ching Luo needed. She was already following beside Ghost Doctor, and if there were no accidents, she should be able to advance to the stage of a Grandmaster Alchemist in no time. By then, she would be able to refine the medicinal pill to restore Ziling's lame leg. These two medicinal herbs were one of the medicinal herbs needed to refine it. Just as Yi-Ching Luo was thinking about these two medicinal herbs, everyone's vision and attention was concentrated on Death God Castle. Death God Castle. That was the grave of numerous cultivators. No, more accurately, it should be the grave of numerous thieves. Other than the guards there, no one could walk out of there alive. That place was named Death God Castle because there really was a death god inside. However, countless number of cultivators and bandits continued to swarm into Death God Castle. Because in Death God Castle, there were simply too many enviable and coveted treasures which they wanted to get their hands on. No one knew where this rumor came from. It was rumored that in ancient times, the upper realm was at war. The realm of gods hid their treasures in Death God Castle. God Realm. That was the rumored place. The strongest existence in the upper realm. The treasures which they left behind, if one was able to obtain one, they would definitely be able to dominate the Nirvana realm. But that exquisite pagoda wasn't the so-called treasure. Because Death God Castle was rumored to contain the God Realm's treasures. Because of that, many families placed their treasures in Death God Castle for safekeeping. No one knew who the Castle Lord of Death God Castle was. But they knew that the things which were placed in Death God Castle would absolutely not be stolen. This exquisite pagoda was something which a certain family placed in Death God Castle to store. Its function was similar to Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Pagoda, which could store people into the pagoda. The only difference was that Heavenly Pagoda created numerous spaces in the pagoda, to allow students to cultivate and grow. Whereas Exquisite Pagoda was an attack type. Once one was sucked into the Exquisite Pagoda, there was basically no way to walk out alive. Because of that, no one knew what was the situation inside the pagoda. Which meant to say, this high-grade rare mission was an extremely dangerous mission. Number 1, Death God Castle. It was basically impossible to barge into it. Even if one were to enter, one would not be able to come out alive. Secondly, the Exquisite Pagoda was too dangerous. If one didn't know how to use it and was accidentally sucked into the Exquisite Pagoda, one's life would be over. Damn it. No wonder the mission rewards were so bountiful. If we complete this mission, the mercenary honor points will be enough for us to be promoted to a bronze mercenary group. It should be known that the mercenary union had great restrictions on the promotion of mercenary groups. This was because every increase in level meant that the overall strength of the mercenary group would increase by 100-fold. Just like the world group which Yi-Ching Luo had established now, in order to be promoted from an ordinary mercenary group to a bronze plate, they would need to complete at least 100 low-grade and intermediate-grade missions to accumulate 100 credit points before they could be promoted. The reward for this mission was 150 honor points. Simply savage. The problem is, we can't complete it. The youths below all shook their heads in shock. They had all heard of the legends of Death God Castle. They had even heard that 10 years ago, the Nirvana realm's #1 divine thief, after entering Death God Castle, there was no more news of him. Many of them were spreading rumors that this divine thief had died in Death God Castle. Even a professional thief like Divine Thief was unable to do it, so how could they possibly do it? Chapter 476. The mission to head to the Death God Castle, even if it was a God-level mission, it would be considered normal. How could he have been assigned to a high-level mission? If a bronze or silver plate mercenary group were to accept such a mission, wouldn't that be sending them to their deaths? The mercenary guild would never make such a mistake. Moreover, what's even more strange is, why would Yuqi accept this mission? Yiqing Luo rubbed her chin as she slowly combed through her thoughts. The Iron Blood warriors are still conserving their energy and recruiting their troops. But today, they hurriedly rushed over to register their mercenary group. Their motive is for this mission. Apparently, they already knew what the mission is. Knowing that he has to go to the Death God Castle to steal the exquisite pagoda, but he still chose this mission. This also means that he is extremely confident in this mission. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as a glint flashed past her eyes, that is to say, there are other ways to complete this mission. Even a mercenary group like the Predators has the confidence to complete this mission. For us, we shouldn't be able to. You are not allowed to go. The three cold words seemed to be wrapped in frost, freezing Yiqing Luo. This voice shocked Yiqing Luo. She turned her head in shock and looked at the man beside her. When she met the man's cold, black eyes that were like molten obsidian, all her words were stuck in her throat. He was angry. Yiqing Luo had never seen Dmo Xian so angry before. Just a pair of eyes was enough to make a person not even dare to make a sound. Ah Xian. After a long while, Yiqing Luo braced herself and moved her little hand over bit by bit, grabbing onto Dmo Xian's wrist. She knew what Dmo Xian was angry about. Death God Castle was too dangerous. It was so dangerous that one could easily lose their life if they were not careful. The world group's people were not strong to the point where they could come and go as they pleased in Death God Castle. Dmo Xian was worried about her, worried that she would be too stubborn and insist on completing this task. But, she was not willing to give up on this rare mission. For Yuqi to so confidently accept this task, there must be a way to complete it. What Yuqi could do, she could definitely do it too. There was no time limit for this mission. It was not impossible for her to spend some time and ask around. Ah Xian, there's no room for discussion. Dmo Xian's voice was cold as he suddenly stood up. Lil Luo, don't force me to bring you to the Imperial Palace. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately strode out and left the guest room. When Yiqing Luo chased after him, there were many people outside but Dmo Xian was nowhere to be seen. If he didn't want her to find him, she couldn't find him no matter what. Yiqing Luo's fingers were clenched so tightly that her round nails were embedded into her flesh. The atmosphere turned cold in an instant. Xiao Jin walked to the door and placed one hand on Yiqing Luo's shoulder as he patted lightly. The Overlord is worried about you. Death God Castle is indeed too dangerous, and even if the Overlord is protecting you, there's no way to take care of everyone. That's right Qing Luo, if the world group were to enter Death God Castle together, if one of us is restricted, then there's a possibility that the entire group would be restricted. We all know your personality, much less the Arch. Yan Xiaoyi also followed over as she looked at Yiqing Luo's despondent look, as she sighed softly. Just based on one day of interaction, they could feel that Dmo Xian really loved Yiqing Luo. His worry and concern for her didn't need any proof. Chapter 477. Although, along the way, they did not see Dmo Xian make a move. But Yan Xiaoyi and the others absolutely believed that if they really met an opponent whom Yiqing Luo was unable to contend against, Dmo Xian would definitely be the first to block in front of Yiqing Luo, to protect her. If the place Yiqing Luo wanted to go to had exceeded the protection range which he could predict, Dmo Xian would never allow her to go. even if Dmo Xian could guarantee Yi Qing Luo's safety. But as long as one of the other brothers was injured, Yi Qing Luo would definitely not wash her hands of this. I know. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips and lowered her eyelids slightly. I know he's worried about me. You know he's worried about you. He's not angry at you for no reason. Why are you still pulling a long face? Qiao Jin suddenly squeezed the hand on her shoulder. Don't pull a long face. The arch can't bear to be angry with you. Jin Zi, are you looking for a fight? Yi Qing Luo was in so much pain that she drew in a breath of cold air, as she unhappily swatted away Qiao Jin's hand and retreated a few steps, massaging her shoulder. I'm advising you. Yi Qing Luo's hand which was massaging her shoulder gradually stopped. She bit her lower lip and said, I know he's worried about me, but, are you guys willing to give up on the mission that's already in your hands? Even a team of Yuchiya's level has confidence. I feel that, if we properly investigate, there might be a way to complete the mission without harming our lives. Yi Qing Luo's voice had just stopped. Suddenly, he heard a clear and sweet voice that carried a hint of coquettishness, but it was completely emotionless. Qing Luo. It was Mo Yuing who had not spoken a single word ever since they left the devil class. She was dressed in a black outfit that wrapped around her petite body. There was actually a hint of mischievousness and cuteness in her. Two small black lumps hung down from the two sides of his shoulders. Following Mo Yuying's footsteps, he could hear the jingle of the bell on her wrist. If it were you, you would also stop the arch. She looked up, her voice flat and emotionless. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled as her pupils suddenly widened. That was right. Think about it from another perspective. If Dmo Xian were to take part in a mission with unknown dangers and a high mortality rate, she would never allow Dmo Xian to participate. Against the fear of the unknown, if he was alone, he could still give it a try. Now, they had each other, someone they cared about. No matter what, he could not bear to use his life as a wager. Don't we have 3 days off? Since we've registered our mercenary group today, let's book a restaurant to celebrate tonight. We can also take this opportunity to think about whether or not we should continue with this mission. Qiao Jin saw Yi Qing Luo's expression and gradually resumed his smile. He immediately spoke up to ease the current atmosphere. Yan Xiaoyi nodded and said, 3 days of vacation, no rush, no rush. Today, the two of you should calm each other down. Tomorrow, you will also calm down. If you still insist on doing this mission tomorrow, we'll think of a way to convince the arch. Convince? Once Dmo Xian had decided on something, even she would not be able to convince him. If Dmo Xian wasn't willing, she absolutely could not take a single step into Death God Castle. Just like what Mo Yuing said, Dmo Xian did not allow her to go to Death God Castle. Just like how she did not allow Dmo Xian to go to dangerous places, it was the same logic. Putting herself in his shoes, she could understand Dmo Xian's feelings. Chapter 478. This mission was delayed because of this. Yi Qing Luo went to look for Yu Qiping to probe for news while the World Group's other youngsters packed up their things and returned to Yan Xiaoyi's mansion. Mo Hanshang naturally followed along to the mansion. With the addition of a new member, Qiao Jin lent a set of clothes to Dmo Xian and the team's clothes were reduced by a few sets. After he took Mo Hanshang's measurements, he went out to find someone to make a few sets of the World Group's uniform. The Iron Blood Warrior mercenary group was gloomy. Yu Qipeng's face was filled with hostility. As he walked, he gritted his teeth. Duke Jing followed by his side and his hand was already bandaged properly as it hung in front of his chest. Yu Qipeng, don't worry. This grudge, this duke will definitely let Uncle Monarch take revenge for this duke. Duke Jing lowered his head as he took a look at his wrist. The pain of being broken still lingered in his bones. Just thinking about it made him feel a dull pain in his hand. When I get back, I'll tell Uncle Monarch about what happened today. It's just a mercenary union. As long as I give the order, Uncle Monarch will definitely send troops to destroy the mercenary union. Duke Jing raised his head proudly as he had already imagined the scene of him saying these words in his mind. The more he thought about it, the more he wanted to act on it. Idiot! A low reprimanding voice could be heard through gritted teeth. Duke Jing's brows creased as he stared towards the direction of the voice. Yu Qipeng, what did you say? Yu Qipeng's heart was filled with frustration. For the sake of the predators, he had spent so much time and poured in all his efforts. He wanted to soar into the sky after registering as a mercenary group. But he didn't expect that a group of young girls who were still wet behind the ears would disrupt all his plans. Not only did the predators not soar to the top, but they also became a joke in the eyes of all the mercenary groups, losing all face. He was the young master of the Yuchi family, the leader of the Iron Blood Warriors, but he had to apologize to a little girl. Bowing down to a young boy. All these were all thanks to that young lass, that Imo Han Shang. Filled with anger and unwillingness, Duke Jing, this brainless fool, was still chattering away beside his ears. Yu Qipeng felt increasingly irritated. I say, Yora. The moment he said that, Yu Qipeng suddenly came back to his senses. His eyes were gloomy and cold as he stared coldly at Duke Jing for some time, and the vicious aura around him gradually dissipated a little. There's something that Duke Jing doesn't know about. When Yu Qipeng opened his mouth once again, his voice had already reverted back to his usual gentleness and calmness. The Mercenary Association is spread across the 4 continents of Nirvana Realm, and every main city has a Mercenary Association branch. Does Duke Jing know what this means? Duke Jing's face sunk as he was still bearing a grudge against Yu Qipeng for scolding him earlier. He snorted coldly and turned his face away, looking very much like a child throwing a tantrum. Yu Qipeng restrained the impatience and disgust in his eyes and continued to explain. This means that the influence of the Mercenary Association in the Nirvana Realm is absolutely not inferior to the 4 great Profounder clans. It's not just the 4 great Profounder clans that have to be amiable before the Mercenary Association. Even the monarchs of the 4 continents have to give the Mercenary Association some face. In other words, even the 4 great Profound Practitioner clans and the monarch had to give face to the Mercenary Association. Even if he asked the monarch to send troops to the Mercenary Association, the monarch would absolutely not agree. Chapter 479. For a gentleman to take revenge, 10 years is not too late. Yu Qipeng spat out these few words from the slits of his teeth as his eyes were masked with a layer of viciousness. He clenched his fists tightly. For the Iron Blood Warriors, we must endure this grievance. Mentioning the Iron Blood Warriors, Duke Jing's expression eased up slightly. If we want to develop the Iron Blood Warriors, we must rely on the Mercenary Association's power. Duke Jing, it's all right to suffer a little grievance now. One day, we will get back at them. Saying that, Yu Qipeng seemed to have thought of something as a sneer of ridicule flashed past his eyes. They won't be complacent for long. They thought that by snatching that high-grade rare mission from my hands, they would be able to complete that mission. That mission, other than me, no one else is able to complete it. Yu Qipeng's few words had already coaxed Duke Jing into submission. Now that he heard about the mission, Duke Jing's heart was filled with doubts. What mission is that? It's because of this mission that you're in such a hurry to bring everyone here to register the mercenary group. If it wasn't for the fact that Yu Qipeng was in a hurry to register the mercenary group, they would have spent some time in the marketplace to subdue Qing Luo and the other young ladies. Those young ladies wouldn't have appeared in the mercenary group. Iron Blood Warriors wouldn't have to face today's predicament. Yu Peng gave a cold laugh. High-grade rare mission. As long as we complete that mission, our ordinary mercenary group will be able to upgrade to a bronze plate mercenary group. No matter how ignorant Duke Jing was, he had understood everything about the mercenary group. Naturally, he understood how difficult it was for a mercenary group to upgrade. One mission and they would be able to upgrade to bronze plate immediately. No wonder Yu Peng was so concerned. If that mission was snatched away by the world group, wouldn't they be able to upgrade faster than us? Want to complete that mission? Just based on them. Yu Peng's lips twitched in disdain. Following that, his gaze looked towards Duke Jing. If they don't accept the mission within 3 days, that mission will eventually return to our hands. These few days, just pay close attention to the Mercenary Association's mission acceptance wall. This high-grade rare mission, we are determined to get it. Knowing that this mission would be able to upgrade to a bronze plate mercenary group, Duke Jing was also attentive. The moment a new official took up his post, he received his first mission. Duke Jing immediately stopped his chest and raised up that uninjured hand as he replied seriously, "All right, this Duke will definitely not take my eyes off this mission." There was also a rule for the mercenary union to accept missions. After accepting a mission, if the mercenary group did not confirm to accept the mission, it would be considered as giving up on the mission after 3 days. That mission scroll would also become an ordinary scroll. He would no longer receive any rewards from the mercenary union. This mission would then be returned to the mercenary union's mission receiving wall and accepted by other mercenary groups. Yu Peng looked at the delighted Duke Jing and a trace of cold smile flashed past his eyes. He wiped away the disdain towards Duke Jing in his eyes and retracted his vision. The two of them did not notice that a slender figure was standing on a treetop in the darkness. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her lips curled into a smile which didn't look like a smile. Sure enough, her guess was right. The reason why Yu Peng registered his mercenary group today was because of this high-level rare mission. He was very confident about this mission. This kind of confidence, where did it come from? Could it be that Yu Peng was really able to come and go as he pleased in Death God Castle unscathed and even take away the exquisite pagoda? Chapter 480. It was absolutely impossible for Yu Peng to have any relations with the guards in Death God Castle. He could coerce and bribe the Mercenary Association's guards to intercept Yiqing Luo. But it was absolutely impossible to use the same method to make Death God Castle's guards open a backdoor for him. Then there was one last possibility. Exquisite pagoda wasn't in Death God Castle. Or perhaps it was in Yu Peng's hands. If that was the case, then things would be easy. Looked like to complete this mission, they had to start from Yu Peng. After Yu Peng and the rest returned to Three Springs City, they went their separate ways. Duke Jing had suffered a huge humiliation today and couldn't wait to complain to Uncle Monarch. As for the other mercenary soldiers, their morale had been greatly stimulated and all of them revealed an exhausted look as they were sent back to the Iron Blood Warriors' main camp to rest. Yu Peng headed straight for the Yuchi residence. His expression was gloomy as his entire body emitted a terrifying vicious qi. The attendants and maids who went up to welcome him immediately avoided him when they saw him from afar, not even daring to greet him. Yu Peng's courtyard was located at the south side of the Yuchi residence and it was the biggest courtyard in the residence. Yiqing Luo stopped outside the courtyard. Her vision was fixed on this courtyard as her slender brows creased tightly into a bundle. Again. That. When she first met Yu Peng, that disgusting feeling came again. There seemed to be something in this courtyard. There was something which made her extremely uncomfortable. Lass. In her mind, old man Song's voice suddenly rang. I had always felt that this Yu Peng was extremely strange. Now that I see this courtyard, I discover that this courtyard is even stranger. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and pressed it against her chest, suppressing this uncomfortable feeling. It was indeed very strange. So strange that all the pores on her body opened up. Lass, don't go in. Old man Sang's voice was solemn. This feeling is too strange. I'm unable to sense the exact source of this feeling. Strange, simply too strange. It's too late. Indeed, it was too late. While Yiqing Luo was conversing with old man Tsang, her vision had been paying attention to Yu Qipeng. After Yu Qipeng entered the courtyard, the vicious qi which he emitted became even thicker. Then, as if he had lost all his strength, he staggered and half fell to the ground. His hands were on the ground, and his head was lowered, buried in his hair. After that, there was no more movement. Then, at the same time old man Tsang told her not to go in. Yu Qipeng, who had not moved for a long time, suddenly turned his head. Under the strands of hair on his face, a pair of penetrating eyes, like an icy cold venomous snake, tightly coiled around Yiqing Luo. Yu Qipeng still did not move. But Yiqing Luo knew. He saw her. Those eyes were eerily cold. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with fear. Those eyes, that gaze was definitely not Yu Qipeng. That was not a gaze that Yu Qipeng could have. This knowledge made Yiqing Luo's entire body turn cold. For the first time in her life, Yiqing Luo had this kind of fearful mentality. That kind of gaze was too terrifying. Oh no, little girl. Old man Tsang's voice suddenly became louder, his tone was filled with panic. He is not Yu Qipeng. This old man finally knows why this courtyard is so strange. Yiqing Luo gave a bitter laugh. She had guessed that this person was not Yu Qipeng. To put it more accurately, after entering this courtyard, this body was no longer Yu Qipeng's soul. But, even if she knew this horrifying truth, Yiqing Luo had no way to leave. She believed. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.